Chapter 2400. Everyone was tempted by the appearance of the Bodhi seed. To Su Zimo, the Bodhi seed was a must-have. The Bodhi seed was a Buddhist treasure, and the Prajna Nirvana Sutra that he cultivated was also a Buddhist Tao technique. There were still some scriptures and secret techniques in this taboo manual that he had yet to fully comprehend. If he could obtain the Bodhi seed's help, there was hope that he could fully comprehend the Prajna Nirvana Sutra and make another breakthrough in his primordial soul. Currently, he was only a stage 4 heavenly immortal, but his primordial soul had already reached the stage 6 heavenly immortal level. If he could fully comprehend the Prajna Nirvana scripture and perfectly fuse his dragon phoenix nascent divinity with his green lotus nascent divinity, his nascent divinity might be upgraded to the next level, reaching the level of a 7th tier heaven immortal. A primordial soul that was 3 stages higher than one's own cultivation level was extremely terrifying. Since ancient times, not many people had been able to do that. More importantly, after obtaining the Bodhi seed, it would be easier for him to comprehend Tao techniques, and his cultivation speed would also increase. The heavenless battle in the divine firmament celestial realm was approaching. Time was very important to Su Zimo. His opponents on the heaven list would definitely be stronger and more difficult to deal with than those on the earth list. Among them, there was Yin Ting, a rare genius that only appeared once in a million years. If the difference in cultivation level between the two sides was too great, no matter how many trump cards Su Zimo had, it would be difficult for him to win. The Bodhi seed was equally attractive to the others. Almost at the same time, the 6 of them rushed toward the Bodhi seed, each releasing their divine powers and secret techniques, taking out their Dharma treasures to seize the opportunity. If they could obtain the Bodhi seed, even if they had to give up the Jade Purity Jade Book, they could accept it. Picking the stars with one hand, burning the sky and boiling the sea, sky slash, golden spears and armored horses. One after another, divine powers exploded and collided in midair, creating earth-shattering explosions. Nia Hun, the stage 5 heavenly immortal from the Jade Firmament celestial realm, was the first to succumb. He spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated. Jin Yu, the other stage 5 heavenly immortal, was still on the battlefield, but he was also forced to reveal his true form. He was a 3-legged golden crow, covered in golden flames. Boom! Seeing that the situation had reached a stalemate, Prince Ing Tian immediately unleashed his bloodline rare phenomenon. A tall, illusionary figure appeared behind him. Its face was blurry, but it was emitting a boundless aura. Around this tall shadow stood 12 golden-armored giants with large swords in their hands. Each of them looked cold and murderous. Boom! Lang Qianqian did not hesitate to release her bloodline phenomenon. Behind her, a cloud appeared, and a huge palace was faintly discernible in the depths. There were 5 cities and 12 buildings, and it was grand and magnificent. Under the impact of the prince's and princess's bloodline anomalies, Jin Yu could not hold on any longer and was defeated. Although he was a 3-legged golden crow and had a powerful bloodline, it was still inferior to Ing Tian and Lang Qianqian's sovereign bloodline. Moreover, his cultivation was 2 minor realms lower than the 2 of them. The disparity in strength was too great. A mere bird dares to lay its hands on the Bodhi seed. Seeing this scene, Ing Tian laughed loudly, appearing extremely insolent. This time, Ing Tian and Lang Qianqian had a tacit understanding. Without any communication, they immediately teamed up to suppress Su Zimo and Lin Luo. Su Zimo was a 4th stage heaven immortal, 3 minor realms lower than Ing Tian and Lang Qianqian. If the 2 of them were just ordinary heaven immortals, Su Zimo would surely be able to suppress them with all his trump cards. However, he was currently facing 2 of the strongest geniuses in the 9 heavens immortal realm. In addition, due to the presence of Qinglian's true form, Su Zimo was not able to unleash his bloodline rare phenomenon. Even if he unleashed all his trump cards, it would still be difficult for him to fight against the princes and princesses, who were 3 minor realms higher. Ing Tian and Lang Qianqian attacked without holding back. The pressure on Su Zimo skyrocketed. Go and get the Bodhi seed. I'll try my best to hold them off for 3 breaths' time. At that instant, Lin Luo's figure flickered and blocked in front of Su Zimo. She transmitted her voice with her divine sense. Roar! Lin Luo also activated her bloodline and raised it to the maximum. 9 divine dragons appeared behind her and circled around her. Previously, Su Zimo had obtained the human emperor's secret technique, the ancient dragonification art. He could summon a divine dragon behind his back. Now Lin Luo's bloodline rare phenomenon clearly had traces of the ancient dragonification art. However, it was even more powerful and terrifying. It could summon 9 divine dragons. With 9 dragons circling around her body, Lin Luo exuded the majesty of a supreme being even though she had the appearance of a young girl. This bloodline rare phenomenon would not be at a disadvantage against any of Ying Tian's or Lang Qianqian's bloodline rare phenomenon. However, Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian were 2 people after all. Moreover, Lin Luo's cultivation was only a 6th-stage heaven immortal, which was 1 level lower than the 2 of them. Just 1 bloodline rare phenomenon was not enough. 3 heads and 6 arms. Lin Luo released her supreme divine ability. At the same time, she took out 4 Dharma treasures. Her empty hands quickly deduced a secret technique and condensed it in front of her. A mysterious and profound 8 trigrams diagram appeared. Qian, Kun, Sun, Zhen, Qin Li, Zhen and Dui, the 8 different powers, appeared in the diagram and changed unpredictably. Earlier on, Su Zimo had helped her obtain the 9 orifices Yang Restoration Elixir. Now that he had given her a worryless fruit, Lin Luo was filled with gratitude. This time around, she unleashed all her trump cards without holding back. Su Zimo did not hesitate. His eyes shone brightly as he shouted, "Six Fangs Divine Power." His innate divine ability was activated, and his strength increased tremendously. 3 heads and 6 arms. At the same time, Su Zimo also released the supreme divine ability after this foundation. 3 heads and 6 arms. He only had the chance to comprehend it after the human sovereign had used it once in the lower realm to fight against the foreign sovereigns. Su Zimo held the Trijade Rui scepter in one hand, the Tai Horsetail whisk in the other, and a fiery red feather fan in the other. His 3 empty hands quickly deduced Dharma secret techniques. Everyone comprehended different supreme divine abilities. In addition, due to various reasons such as energy and time, there was a limit to the number of supreme divine abilities one could comprehend. For example, Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian did not comprehend 3 heads and 6 arms. However, Su Zimo and Lin Luo did not comprehend the other supreme divine abilities that the 2 of them had comprehended. "Kill them!" Ying Tian shouted and raised his arms to the front. The 12 golden-armored giants around the illusory figure behind him suddenly rushed out. They held huge swords and surrounded Lin Luo and Su Zimo. Suppress! The ethereal palace behind Lang Qianqian also suppressed Lin Luo and Su Zimo. Boom! 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 Lin Luo's 9 divine dragons were the first to collide with the 12 golden-armored giants. The battle was fierce. At the same time, her 8 trigrams diagram collided with the ethereal palace. A loud sound was heard, and the 8 trigrams diagram almost collapsed. It had to be said that Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian's bloodline avatars were too powerful. In just a breath's time, Lin Luo's 9 dragons and 8 trigrams diagram were crushed. They turned into streaks of blood qi and dissipated into the air. She waved her 6 arms and summoned her Dharma treasures, wanting to stop Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian for a moment. However, the 2 of them worked together and knocked down Lin Luo's Dharma treasures in the blink of an eye. Lin Luo originally thought that she could stop Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian for 3 breaths' time, which would give Su Zimo a chance to obtain the Bodhi seed. However, in less than 2 breaths' time, Lin Luo could no longer hold on. Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian were already close to her. Chapter 2401. Roar. At this moment, another majestic dragon roar sounded from behind Lin Luo. It pierced through gold and cracked stone. 9 divine dragons broke through the air with a monstrous aura. Lin Luo's 9 dragons avatar had already been defeated by the 12 golden armored giants. The 9 divine dragons now were formed from the 9 dragons on the Trijade Rui. Su Zimo did not abandon Lin Luo to snatch the Bodhi seed. Instead, he chose to help. The 9 divine dragons crashed into the 12 golden armored giants. At the same time, a huge tortoiseshell appeared. The patterns on the tortoiseshell emitted a mysterious light as it blocked in front of Lin Luo. Su Zimo's other innate ability, Spirit Tortoise Shield. Boom! The ethereal palace descended and suppressed the tortoiseshell, causing a loud explosion. The tortoiseshell trembled and flickered. It was obvious that it could not withstand the pressure. At this moment, Su Zimo waved the fiery red feather fan in his hand. He injected heaven and earth yuan qi into it, and fanned it toward Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian. Whoosh! As the feather fan fell, a scorching flame burst forth. The flame soared into the sky, and formed a fiery storm that instantly engulfed Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian. Destroy! Ying Tian's blood and qi surged and purple qi surrounded him. He took off a string of white prayer beads from his wrist, and activated a secret technique as he shouted. This string of prayer beads spun continuously, and suddenly transformed into a vast and majestic tide. It collided with the fiery storm, and created a huge cloud of mist. Ying Tian's string of prayer beads was made from the bones of an immortal whale. It was unpredictable, and could even transform into an ocean and an immortal whale. Condense! Ying Tian lightly shouted. The fiery storm collided with the tide, and the resulting mist continued to condense. In the blink of an eye, a living being with a terrifying aura appeared in midair. This living being's body was so huge that it almost broke through the entire palace. As the immortal whale descended, its aura was astonishing. It rushed towards Lin Luo and Su Zimo. Su Zimo was not in a hurry. He activated his primordial spirit, and injected the unique primordial spirit power of the Dragon Phoenix primordial spirit into the feather fan in his hand. The 7 feathers on the feather fan suddenly became extremely hot, emitting a red light. They were sparkling and translucent, as if they had been burned through. This was the 7-tailed phoenix feather fan, a magic treasure that Su Zimo had picked from the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom when he was ranked first on the Earth roll. This magic treasure was originally a pure yang spirit treasure, but it had been severely damaged, causing its cultivation level to drop, and its power was no longer the same as before. In the Wutong secret realm of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom, Su Zimo had used the power of the Wutong Grand Formation to repair the 7-tailed phoenix feather fan. Although it had yet to reach the level of a pure yang spirit treasure, it could already display a terrifying might. In order to unleash the power of the 7 phoenix feather fan, the power of the Divine Phoenix clan had to be activated. Therefore, although this magic treasure had a powerful background, no one chose it until Su Zimo appeared. Half of Su Zimo's primordial spirit was the Dragon Phoenix primordial spirit. The power he could release was even purer and stronger than the power of the Divine Phoenix clan. Su Zimo waved the 7-tailed phoenix feather fan once more. Screech! The moment the feather fan landed, the cry of a phoenix sounded in midair. Immediately after, a divine phoenix with blazing flames flew out from the 7-tailed phoenix feather fan and charged towards the immortal whale in midair. Among the 10,000 races, the collision of 2 top-notch living beings was earth-shattering. At the same time that Su Zimo released his trump cards, he waved the horsetail whisk in his hands. The 3,000 strands of horsetail whisk were filled with spirituality and tore through layers of space, spreading continuously. In the blink of an eye, they arrived beside the Bodhi seed and swept it back the way they came. Although he could not escape, he could make use of the Dharma treasure in his hands to seize the initiative and snatch the Bodhi seed. Right then, a warning flashed through Su Zimo's mind. Swash! A cold light appeared behind him without any warning, stabbing towards the back of his head. If that cold light pierced down, it would be able to pierce Su Zimo's consciousness instantly and kill his essence spirit. It was a killing move right from the start. He wanted to kill him. The person who attacked had an extremely ingenious grasp of the timing. It was the most intense moment of the fight between Ying Tian, Lang Qianqian, Su Zimo and Lin Luo. Both parties had released multiple divine powers and secret skills consecutively. At this moment, they were at their weakest and could not afford to be distracted. Su Zimo was not surprised and had a calm expression. He was still controlling the Tai horsetail whisk and pulling the Bodhi seed over. as though he did not sense the killing intent behind him. "Watch out!" Lin Luo caught sight of everything from the corner of her eye, and warned hurriedly. She was entangled by Lang Qianqian, and could not break free. Lin Luo's voice was still a step too late. The moment she warned, the cold light had already landed on the back of Su Zimo's head. Clang! When the cold light landed on it, it did not break through his flesh and bones. Instead, the sound of metal clashing could be heard. Immediately after, ripples appeared in the void not far away. A short and thin figure appeared, holding a sharp sword in his hand. It was the blue-robed boy with the lowest cultivation among the 9. When the 9 of them appeared, the blue-robed boy was only a stage 1 heavenly immortal, and was much weaker than the others. No one paid attention to him at all. No one expected that the blue-robed boy would suddenly appear, and dare to attack Su Zimo. He's not a stage 1 heavenly immortal, but a stage 7 heavenly immortal. Jin Yu and Nie Hun, who were watching from the side, could not help but exclaim when they detected the blue-robed boy's cultivation. The blue-robed boy was clearly proficient in the Tao of assassination and concealment. A stage 7 heavenly immortal assassin might not be very strong in a head-on battle, but he could assassinate a stage 8 heavenly immortal, or even a stage 9 heavenly immortal. It had to be said that the blue-robed boy's concealment had indeed fooled everyone. Even Su Zimo did not pay attention to him. However, no matter how the blue-robed boy hit his tracks, he could not hide from his spirit perception. When Su Zimo and Ying Tian were fighting, he had already sensed that there was a terrifying expert hidden in the surroundings, who was clearly hostile towards him. Therefore, Su Zimo was already prepared. On the surface, he was holding the Tri-Jade Scepter, Tai Horsetail Whisk, and Seven Tails Phoenix Feather Fan. However, in reality, he had already secretly released the 9 Heavens Breath Soil in preparation for any sudden situations. Just as expected, when the blue-robed boy attacked, Su Zimo merely used his spirit consciousness, and the 9 Heavens Breath Soil appeared behind his head, forming a yellow sand barrier. No matter how sharp the blue-robed boy's sword was, it could not break through the 9 Heavens Breath Soil. When I saw that lad retreating to the main hall from earlier on, I did not think much of it, and thought that he was looking for He-Dan and Chi-Yu. Nie Hun said in a deep voice. By the looks of it, He-Dan and Chi-Yu are most likely dead in his hands. After failing to kill Su Zimo, the blue-robed boy wanted to escape. However, Su Zimo's heart was filled with killing intent. If such a dangerous assassin was left in the Jade Clear Hall, he would be a huge threat. Su Zimo was prepared to make use of this opportunity to eliminate this threat completely. Since you want to assassinate me, don't think about leaving. Su Zimo turned to look at the blue-robed boy who was about to disappear and said faintly, End of chapter. Chapter 2402. When the blue-robed boy sensed Su Zimo's killing intent, he was not afraid at all. In fact, he found it laughable. He was a level 7 heavenly immortal, the same realm as Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian. Although his combat strength was far from theirs, a level 4 heavenly immortal was not a threat to him. Don't be angry, the blue-robed boy chuckled. You're lucky this time. I won't fail next time. Don't worry, Acheron. You won't be alone on your journey. He-Dan and Chi-Yu are already waiting for you over there. Just as expected, the moment he saw the blue-robed boy's assassination attempt, Su Zimo guessed that He-Dan and Chi-Yu were most likely dead. Su Zimo glared at the gradually disappearing figure of the blue-robed boy as his mind raced. Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian's attacks were ferocious while Su Zimo and Lin Luo worked together to release many mystic arts and secret skills. However, they could not hold on for long. They had to kill the blue-robed boy as quickly as possible. Swash! Su Zimo's figure flashed and suddenly vanished from the spot. By the time he reappeared, he was already behind the blue-robed boy. Pressing 2 fingers together, he conjured a sword art and pointed at the back of the blue-robed boy's head. The blue-robed boy's expression changed slightly as he sensed the killing intent behind him. His reaction was extremely fast as he released a teleportation technique and vanished from the spot. Hee, you're too slow. The blue-robed boy chuckled softly. All of a sudden, as though he sensed something, the blue-robed boy hurriedly released a movement technique and shifted dozens of feet to the side. Su Zimo appeared right beside where he was standing a moment ago, and slashed at empty air with a wave of his hand. If he had reacted slightly slower, he would have been sliced into two by Su Zimo. It's not teleportation? The blue-robed boy frowned deeply. There was no way he could use teleportation twice in a row within a short period of time. The moment that thought flashed through his mind, the blue-robed boy's pupils constricted. Su Zimo had vanished from his vision once more. He did not have time to think as he dodged hurriedly. Just as expected, Su Zimo appeared not far away from him once more. Swash! Swash! Whoosh! Su Zimo's figure kept disappearing and reappearing. Each time it appeared, it would definitely pose a huge threat to the blue-robed boy. The blue-robed boy was able to avoid danger time and time again. On one hand, it was because his cultivation was not weak. On the other hand, it was because he cultivated the Tao of assassination. So he was more sensitive to danger. Even so, the space for him to dodge was getting smaller and smaller. When Su Zimo's figure disappeared for the 7th time, and appeared again, the blue-clothed boy had nowhere to hide. This was the power of the 9 true dragon flashes. Su Zimo was able to unleash this secret technique 7 times in a row after reaching the 4th stage of the heavenly immortal realm. It posed a tremendous threat and pressure to the blue-robed boy. Seeing that there was no way to dodge, the blue-robed boy's eyes turned vicious as he thrust his sword towards Su Zimo's glabella. Su Zimo stretched out his palm, which was covered with the 9 heaven-living soil. With a grab, he directly grabbed the longsword. Sizzle! The sword sliced through the 9 heaven-living soil, creating a series of sparks with an ear-piercing sound. The blue-robed boy channeled his blood chi and released all his strength. However, the longsword could not break free from Su Zimo's grip, let alone pierce his consciousness. Finally, a look of panic flashed through the blue-robed boy's eyes. He specialized in assassination and concealment techniques. In a head-on fight, he could not release much combat strength. But now, he was suppressed by Su Zimo's 9 true dragon flashes, and had nowhere to hide. He was forced to fight. The moment they exchanged blows, the blue-robed boy could sense how terrifying Su Zimo was. He had almost no chance of winning in a head-on fight. Instantly, the blue-robed boy made a judgment and condensed his spirit consciousness without hesitation. Without a single word, he released his essence spirit secret skill. In his opinion, even if that essence spirit secret skill could not kill Su Zimo, it would severely injure the latter. As long as Su Zimo's essence spirit was injured, his combat strength would definitely be greatly affected, and he would be able to escape successfully. At that time, Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian would be able to kill Su Zimo without him having to do anything. The blue-robed boy had a good idea. However, he knew too little about Su Zimo, and did not realize the consequences of releasing his essence spirit secret skill. When Su Zimo sensed that the blue-robed boy had released his essence spirit secret skill, he did not hesitate and released his essence spirit secret skill as well. Reverse scale. His essence spirit was already at the peak of a grade 6 heavenly immortal to begin with. After releasing his 6 fangs divine power, the power of his essence spirit was already at the peak of a grade 7 heavenly immortal. The release of his reverse scale was almost destructive against the blue-robed boy. The moment the 2 essence spirit secret skills collided, the blue-robed boy's expression changed starkly. As though he was struck by lightning, he shuddered and his eyes dimmed instantly. Exclamation point. The blue-robed boy spat out a mouthful of blood. Anyone who touched the reverse scale of a dragon would definitely die. Although the blue-robed boy did not die on the spot, cracks appeared on his essence spirit, and it could collapse at any moment. Su Zimo did not give him any chance to catch his breath. Taking a step forward, he tapped the blue-robed boy's glabella with his sword finger. Poof! A sword chi burst forth, and pierced the blue-robed boy's head instantly. His essence spirit was destroyed and he died. Su Zimo put away the blue-robed boy's storage bag in passing. At the same time, Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian had already broken through the 9 divine dragons, Spirit Turtle Shield, and Divine Phoenix's obstruction, and charged forward once more. Lin Luo retreated in defeat, and had already arrived beside Su Zimo. Su Zimo, hand over the Bodhi seed. Ying Tian hollered with a divine might and an unparalleled might. Without hesitation, Su Zimo did not disperse the sword art in his hand, and slashed in reverse. The heaven-slaying sword chi burst forth. Thousands of heaven-slaying sword chi burst forth, and surged over in a white haze. Killing intent surged into the heavens, as though they wanted to devour Ying Tian. At the same time, Su Zimo conjured another sword art with his other hand, and slashed it towards Lang Qianqian. Su Zimo fought against two with a torrential aura. Above the firmament countless stars appeared. It was chaotic, and even started to fall. The earth trembled and fissures appeared. Boiling red lava spewed out as a gigantic soaring serpent broke out of the ground. Above the firmament, endless killing intent condensed into a divine dragon that charged towards Lang Qianqian. The heaven-slaying and earth-slaying sword arts were released at the same time. In an instant, the ground shook and the clouds changed color. Heaven-slaying sword art? Earth-slaying sword art? Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian came from the Tharch race and were knowledgeable. They immediately recognized the origin of the two sword arts and exclaimed, "In this world, perhaps only these two great sword arts could give rise to such a huge commotion." Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian did not dare to be careless. They hurriedly released their own divine abilities and mystic arts to resist the two sword arts. In an instant, sword chi rampaged in the main hall. Essence chi surged and divine abilities filled the air. Jin Yu and Nie Hun were flabbergasted by this scene. The two of them did not expect that Crown Prince Ying Tian and Crown Princess Lang Qianqian, who had the highest cultivation basis, would be blocked by a stage 4 and a stage 6 heavenly immortal. The princes and princesses usually fought and killed opponents above their level. When had they ever experienced something like this? After all, Lin Luo's parents were heaven realm experts. It was reasonable for them to have such means. But where did that stage 4 heavenly immortal come from? A stage 4 heavenly immortal from Heaven and Earth Academy could fight evenly with stage 7 princes and princesses. Chapter 2403. Rumble. Before a victor could be decided between the four of them, the doors to another hall opened nearby. Su Zimo had already obtained the Bodhi seed, killed the blue-robed boy, and seized his storage bag. His gains were great, so there was no need for him to tangle with Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian here. "Let's go first." Su Zimo sent a voice transmission to Lin Luo with his spiritual sense, then glanced at the nearby hall. The treasures that the immortal emperor had left behind in the Jade Clear Hall were obviously not limited to these. At the very least, they had not found any clues about the Jade Clear Jade book in these halls. Lin Luo was quick-witted and reacted quickly. Even though Su Zimo did not explain anything, she reacted immediately and dashed towards the grand hall not far away without any intention to fight. In this hall, besides the Bodhi seed, there were 8 other treasures. Although these 8 treasures were not as good as the Bodhi seed, they were still rare treasures. However, Su Zimo and Lin Luo had bigger plans. They abandoned these 8 treasures and went directly to the next hall. If nothing unexpected happened, the next hall would contain the treasures left behind by the immortal emperor. Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian were stunned for a moment. They looked at the 8 balls of light floating around the hall and hesitated. With their combat strength, no one would be able to stop them if they took these 8 treasures. Jin Yu and Nie Hun were no threat to them. However, the 8 treasures were scattered all over the hall. It would take some time to collect them. Su Zimo and Lin Luo had already rushed to the next hall to seize the initiative. If they wasted time on these 8 treasures, Su Zimo and Lang Qianqian would very likely take the treasures in the next hall for themselves. If the treasures in that hall were the final Jade Clear Jade book, they would suffer a great loss. At this thought, Ying Tian's figure moved. He ignored the 8 treasures in the hall and rushed towards Su Zimo and Lin Luo at full speed. Lang Qianqian also weighed the pros and cons of this decision. She quickly made a decision and sped away, following closely behind Ying Tian. In that way, it benefited Nie Hun and Jin Yu instead. The two of them looked at each other and immediately moved, rushing toward the treasures in the hall. Su Zimo and Lin Luo rushed into the main hall. Their eyes swept over the place, and they were slightly surprised. This hall was extremely spacious, and everything could be seen at a glance. A talisman floated in the center of the hall, and it emitted a purple halo. Unlike the previous halls, There was nothing else here besides this talisman. In front of this talisman that was not even the size of a palm, Su Zimo's essence spirits felt an irresistible pressure. Since this immortal emperor had placed it alone in a hall, one could imagine how precious this talisman was. If nothing unexpected happened, this talisman was at least a king-grade talisman. It might even be an emperor-grade talisman. Clear purple cloud talisman. At this moment, Ying Tian's voice suddenly sounded behind them. Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian had also arrived. So it's that talisman. No wonder it has such a great effect on the essence spirit. Lin Luo murmured softly. Then, when she saw Su Zimo's confused expression, she explained softly. Back then, this immortal emperor was also a talisman grandmaster. He once condensed the Tao arts in the clear jade book into a talisman. It was a killing talisman that targeted the essence spirit. It was extremely terrifying. Back then, countless kings died in this clear purple cloud talisman. I heard that even the essence spirits of emperors could not withstand it, and were severely injured. Su Zimo was secretly shocked when he heard that. An immortal talisman that could kill immortal kings, and even severely injure emperors, was a great killing weapon. Of course, if one wanted to release an immortal talisman of this level, one's cultivation had to reach a certain level. If anyone present had this immortal talisman, they would not be able to activate it. Even if they forcefully released it, they would not be able to succeed. Before they could kill a strong enemy, their essence spirits would not be able to withstand it, and would collapse on the spot. They would die. Even so, the clear purple cloud talisman was a priceless treasure. Almost at the same time, Su Zimo, Lin Luo, Ying Tian, and Lang Qianqian moved at the same time, and rushed toward the center of the hall. They were only 1,000 feet away from the center of the hall. In the blink of an eye, they would reach it. Dong! But before they could get far, the sound of a drum could be heard. This drum sound appeared very suddenly, and reverberated in the empty hall. The sound lingered in the hall, lingering and endless. The four of them stopped almost at the same time. Their expressions were grave, as they carefully sensed the changes in their bodies. My lifespan has decreased by 10,000 years. Su Zimo furrowed his brows slightly. This drum sound was a little similar to his saber time. However, the power produced was not obvious, and was still within the range that he could withstand. Su Zimo swept his gaze, and saw the expressions of Lin Luo, and the other two. He could tell that the three of them should have been affected by the drum sound, and had their lifespan decreased as well. It should be the sound of the drum of dusk. Lin Luo said softly. Su Zimo asked, What do you mean? Lin Luo explained, that immortal emperor's Tao title is Chunmu, because he possesses two emperor weapons, the morning bell and the drum of dusk. Immortal Emperor Chunmu has extremely deep attainments in the Tao of time. Furthermore, he fused it into his sound domain, and created the peerless mystic ability, simultaneous bell and drum. When he was a heavenly immortal, the sound of the bell reverses the flow of time. The sound of the drum reverses the flow of time. When we heard the drum sound, our lifespan decreased. It should be caused by the Tao technique of the drum of dusk. Su Zimo was enlightened. In that case, the sound of the drum of dusk was indeed similar to his Tao of time. However, the power of the sound of the drum of dusk seemed to be weaker than the saber time, let alone the splendor of an instant. At that moment, the sound of the drum had disappeared, but the lifespan that everyone had just now decreased had completely disappeared, and did not recover. Drum of dusk, so this is the test of this place? Ying Tian's lips curled into a confident smile as he said proudly, Let's see how I'll deal with the sound of the drum of dusk. Before he finished speaking, Ying Tian charged toward the center of the hall again. Ying Tian moved forward while unleashing his mystic arts. In the blink of an eye, he was already 10 zhang away. Dong! As expected, the second sound of the drum sounded. Ying Tian stopped and frowned. Apart from Ying Tian, Su Zimo, and the other two did not hear the sound of the drum. However, when Su Zimo and the other two moved forward, they also heard the second sound of the drum. During this process, Su Zimo, Lin Luo, and Lang Qianqian all unleashed their mystic arts to resist the sound of the drum of dusk. Su Zimo even secretly unleashed an instant. However, when he heard the second sound of the drum, his lifespan decreased again. This time, it decreased by 20,000 years. A heaven immortal's lifespan was 300,000 years. Only decreasing by 10,000 or 20,000 years was not much of a threat to Su Zimo and the others. However, the sound of the drum of dusk could ignore their mystic arts and directly affect them, reducing their lifespan. This was indeed a little strange. Immortal Emperor Chen Mu, if you want to make me retreat and fearfully move forward, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. Ying Tian suddenly laughed and said heroically, losing this bit of lifespan is not a big deal. Ying Tian can still bear it. With that, Ying Tian moved again and sped forward. Dong! The third sound of the drum sounded. Ying Tian's body shook, and he stopped again. Just now, the smile on his face had long disappeared. His eyes flickered and his expression was uncertain and somewhat ugly. Chapter 2404. Su Zimo and the other two continued forward. Dong! The three of them also stopped when they heard the third drum. Su Zimo frowned slightly. He closed his eyes and sensed the changes in his body. When the third drum sounded, his lifespan was reduced again. However, this time, it was 30,000 years. They were originally about 100 feet away from the center of the hall. Now they had only walked 300 feet when they heard the third drum sound. Each drum sound would reduce their lifespan. 10,000 years, 20,000 years, 30,000 years. It didn't seem like much, but if they calculated according to this pattern, they would have lost almost 300,000 years of lifespan when they walked about 700 feet. In other words, even if they exhausted their lifespan, they wouldn't be able to obtain the Purple Dawn Talisman. The four of them stood on the spot and didn't continue forward rashly. Now they had lost 60,000 years of lifespan. If they continued forward and the fourth drum sounded, they would lose 40,000 years of lifespan. In total, it would be 100,000 years of lifespan. This was an unbearable loss for anyone present. The Purple Dawn Talisman was a priceless treasure, but the price was too great. More importantly, even if they gave up all their lifespan, they might not be able to obtain the talisman. Faced with such a situation, everyone had to carefully weigh the pros and cons. At this moment, Niahun and Jin Yu also arrived. When they saw Su Zimo and the other three standing still, they were surprised and puzzled. After hesitating for a moment, the two of them carefully walked forward. There were no other dangers in the hall. The two of them quickly walked 300 feet. They also heard the third drum sound and lost 60,000 years of lifespan. So this is Immortal Emperor Chen Mu's test. Jin Yu also saw the reason for this place, and murmured softly. Niahun suddenly smiled with a trace of mockery on his face. He said faintly, "Why don't you dare to go forward? If you go forward, no one will stop you." Ying Tian said coldly, "All right. Since everyone has agreed, I won't hold back." Niahun cupped his hands slightly. His figure moved and sped forward. In the blink of an eye, he had crossed another 100 feet. Dong! Niahun heard the fourth drum sound. His lifespan had been reduced by 40,000 years. He was originally 80,000 years old. Amongst the celestial immortals, he was considered one of the younger generation. But now, he had only covered a distance of 400 feet in an instant. But he had lost 100,000 years of his lifespan, and was now 180,000 years old. Niahun took a deep breath, his expression calm. His journey this time was actually a huge gamble. He knew that since Immortal Emperor Ding Chunmu left behind such a test, there must be a way to break through the situation. He definitely wouldn't send them to their deaths. Otherwise, the test would be meaningless. Niahun guessed that it was extremely likely that Immortal Emperor Chunmu was testing their disposition and courage. Only with the courage to fight for survival, and the courage to press forward with indomitable, will one be able to pass the test and obtain the Purple Cloud Talisman. When he thought up to here, Niahun steeled his resolve and continued forward, flashing past another 100 feet. He was only 500 feet away from the center of the hall. At the same time, the fifth drum sounded. Niahun could clearly sense that he had lost 50,000 years of his lifespan. He was already 230,000 years old. He was only 70,000 years away from the limit of 300,000 years of lifespan for heaven immortals. Niahun's face was gloomy, and his firm conviction began to waver. Was I wrong? Niahun was hesitant, unable to advance or retreat. He didn't dare to continue forward. One had to know that if he took another step forward, when the sixth drum sounded, he would lose 60,000 years of lifespan. At that time, he would be 290,000 years old past his prime. Everything would be too late. However, if he went back the way he came, he wouldn't be able to recover his lost lifespan. In other words, he would lose 150,000 years of lifespan for nothing. Niahun was unwilling to accept this. Haha, why aren't you moving? At this moment, Tian chuckled softly. If you're afraid, then come back obediently. There's no need to force yourself. Lin Luo shook her head inwardly when she heard this. Tian's words completely blocked Niahun's path of retreat. As expected, when he heard Tian's mockery, Niahun's blood surged. His expression was indignant as he snorted coldly and rushed forward. Dong! The sixth drum sounded. Under the gaze of Lin Luo and the others, Niahun's body underwent a shocking change. In just a short distance of 30 meters, everyone watched as Niahun transformed from a peak and powerful cultivator into a white-haired old man in his twilight years. The impact of the passage of time was extremely cruel. Tian, Lang Qianqian, and the others were relieved. Luckily, they didn't go forward recklessly. Otherwise, they would end up like Niahun. Niahun stood in place. He looked at his white hair and his old skinny hands. His eyes were lost with a hint of struggle and unwillingness. Why? Immortal Emperor Chun Mu, did you leave a test like this just to kill us? What's the point of a test like this? Niahun stood in place and roared. His voice echoed in the spacious hall. Tian smiled and said, Immortal Emperor Chun Mu didn't ask you to die. You overestimated yourself and are courting death. Lang Qianqian nodded and said, the test in this hall shouldn't be prepared for heaven immortals. According to my calculations, you need to have a lifespan of more than 500,000 years to obtain the purple cloud talisman. Even a true immortal can't do it. I'm afraid you have to reach the immortal emperor realm. I don't believe it. Niahun used the last of his strength and roared. He had no way out. Even if he went back the way he came, he was past his prime and only had a year left to live. He could only continue forward and hope for a miracle. Niahun continued forward. The seventh beat of the drum sounded. Niahun's eyes dimmed. His origin spirit was destroyed, and his lifespan was exhausted. He fell in the hall and died. Niahun's death destroyed the last hope in Tian and the others' hearts. In fact, Tian and the others had the same guess. Since this was a test left behind by immortal Emperor Chun Mu, it shouldn't be a dead end. There must be a way out. Now that Niahun was dead, Tian and the others completely gave up and retreated. Even though they had lost 60,000 years of lifespan, they at least kept their lives. Fellow cultivator Su, let's retreat too. Lin Luo looked at Su Zimo beside her. Just now, Su Zimo stood motionless and didn't say a word. His eyes were closed as if his mind was wandering. No one knew what he was thinking. At this moment, Su Zimo suddenly opened his eyes and seemed to have realized something. His figure flashed and moved toward the center of the hall. Fellow cultivator, watch out. Lin Luo was shocked and quickly reminded him. Tian and the others also noticed Su Zimo's actions and had different expressions. Hee, another one who wants to die. Jin Yu curled his lips and sneered. Greed is causing trouble. This person has lost his mind. Lang Qianqian shook her head slightly and said regretfully. Tian said indifferently. In this world, there are too many people who don't know themselves. They always think that they are the favored children of heaven and earth with providence. Little do they know that they are just stupid ants. This person wants to die. At least I don't have to do anything. Chapter 2405. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo was 100 feet away when he heard the fourth drum. This time, he did not release any divine powers or secret techniques to resist. That was because he knew that the Tao technique contained in the sound of the twilight drum had already surpassed all his strength. Even if he resisted, it would be useless. Su Zimo could clearly feel the loss of his lifespan. 40,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. After walking 400 feet, his lifespan had already been reduced by 100,000 years. It was a wonderful feeling. Su Zimo controlled a divine power that allowed time to pass, which was fleeting youth. He had once used this peerless divine power to kill a stage 9 heaven immortal, and personally saw the other party's lifespan dissipate in an instant. However, he had never experienced the feeling of his lifespan disappearing in the blink of an eye. The sound of the twilight drum echoed in the hall. Su Zimo carefully sensed the Tao and Tao contained in the depths of the drum. He felt the cruelty of the loss of lifespan when the sound of the twilight drum descended. The reason why Su Zimo chose to continue forward was not because of greed. Instead, he wanted to use the sound of the twilight drum to continue perfecting his fleeting youth. If possible, he wanted to push fleeting youth to the extreme, break through some kind of barrier and reach another peak. Of course, this action was accompanied by great danger. If he could not comprehend the Tao technique in the sound of the twilight drum, Su Zimo's lost lifespan would never be able to recover. However, all opportunities in the world were accompanied by danger. The most direct way to comprehend the sound of the twilight drum was to test it with one's own body. Only by experiencing the baptism of the sound of the twilight drum and experiencing the profound mysteries of the Tao technique in the sound of the drum would one be able to comprehend it. He wants to comprehend the twilight drum Tao technique? Lang Qianqian seemed to have discovered Su Zimo's intentions and said with a frown. Heh, Ying Tian chuckled. He wants to comprehend the twilight drum Tao with just 10 drum beats? What wishful thinking! Furthermore, he won't even be able to hear 10 drum beats before his lifespan runs out and he dies. This might be the only way to break out of this situation. Lin Luo suddenly understood. The test left behind by immortal Emperor Chunmu was not for everyone to rely on brute force to move forward, but to comprehend his drum of dusk technique. Only then would they have a chance to break through and obtain the violet cloud talisman. Ying Tian, Lang Qianqian, and Jin Yu naturally thought of this as well. However, even though they knew that the drum of dusk was a test left behind by immortal Emperor Chunmu, the four of them did not have the courage to continue. This was too risky. Who had the confidence to comprehend the profound mysteries of the drum of dusk within 10 beats? At this moment, the sound of the fourth drum had completely dissipated and returned to silence. Su Zimo took a deep breath and continued forward. Dong! The fifth drumbeat sounded. 50,000 years of lifespan had passed. Su Zimo had only covered half of the distance, but he had already lost an entire 150,000 years of his lifespan. This scene was almost identical to Niehun just now. In the eyes of Ying Tian and the others, Su Zimo seemed to be repeating Niehun's path. Even the ending was exactly the same. The drumbeat reverberated for a while and soon calmed down. Su Zimo closed his eyes and focused on comprehending the Tao technique contained in the drum of dusk. He felt the subtle changes in his body at this moment. Not long after, Su Zimo opened his eyes and continued forward with a determined gaze. Dong! The sixth drumbeat sounded. 60,000 years of lifespan had passed. Su Zimo's body trembled slightly. He had already lost an entire 210,000 years of lifespan. When Niehun reached this step, he had already become a white-haired old man who was nearing the end of his lifespan. Although Su Zimo looked a little older, his black hair was like a waterfall, his face was ruddy, and his vitality was abundant. He was clearly still at his peak. Niehun was originally 80,000 years old, but he was not even 10,000 years old. Even after losing 210,000 years of lifespan, he was not more than 220,000 years old. He was still at the peak of a heaven immortal. He is very young. With a quick thought, Jin Yu could roughly guess Su Zimo's original age. It's not easy to cultivate to this step before reaching 10,000 years old. Lang Qianqian said. It's a pity that his age is no longer an advantage. Even if he stops now, the possibility of him reaching the true immortal realm in the future is not high. Fellow Taoist, it's not too late to stop now. Lin Luo had a worried expression. She looked at Su Zimo's back and suddenly reminded, if you take another step forward and the seventh drumbeat sounds, you will. Ha ha ha. Ing Tian laughed loudly and interrupted Lin Luo. He mocked. Not bad, not bad. Su Zimo, if you are afraid and admit defeat, hurry up and retreat. Don't be rash. Ing Tian's words were clearly meant to provoke Su Zimo. If the seventh drumbeat sounds, Su Zimo would lose 70,000 years of lifespan. At that time, he would also be in his twilight years. Everything would be too late. Lin Luo glared at him and scolded. Ing Tian, you are too vicious. Ing Tian curled his lips and sneered. This is his own choice. What does it have to do with me? I didn't force him. Besides, the halfway point is 90. Since he has already come this far, he should be firm in his beliefs and continue to move forward. At that moment, Su Zimo opened his eyes and continued to move forward. Dong! The seventh drumbeat sounded. A shocking change happened to Su Zimo's body as he aged rapidly. His face was filled with wrinkles, and his hair was as white as snow. His flesh withered, and he exuded the aura of someone past his prime, turning senile. The lifespan of a heaven immortal was 300,000 years. Su Zimo was almost 290,000 years old. Fellow Taoist, Lin Luo blurted out upon seeing this. Her eyes flickered with pity. Ha 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 ha. Ing Tian burst out laughing in joy. The man just now, he had teamed up with Lin Luo and caused him and Lang Qianqian to suffer a slight loss. How could he not be happy with the outcome? Now that this person was dead, he could naturally take the treasures on his body for himself. It would be perfect if he could find the heaven-killing sword arts and the earth-killing sword arts. I see. Su Zimo remained in place. Even though his face was old, his eyes were extremely clear and emitting a bright glow as he murmured. He had just comprehended the drumbeat of the drum of dusk. Even though he had learned something from it, he was still unable to comprehend its true essence. He finally came to a realization. Only those in their twilight years would be able to sense the true essence of the drumbeat of the drum of dusk and experience the cruelty of aging. Actually, this was another test of immortal Emperor Qinmu. Although Niahan had also reached this stage and was in his twilight years, his mind was on the verge of breaking down at that time. Even his Tao heart was shaken, let alone comprehend the Tao technique calmly. Niahan's Tao heart collapsed and he gambled everything. In the end, he died from the exhaustion of his lifespan. The reason why Su Zimo could remain so calm at this point was partly because his Tao heart was strong. His actions were meant to comprehend the Tao technique of the drumbeat of the drum of dusk to begin with. The other important reason was that he had once experienced his twilight years. He was not unfamiliar with this state. Back in the Tao inheritance ground of Tianhuang mainland, when he established Wu Dao, he had almost exhausted his lifespan before he succeeded in the end. Therefore, even though his lifespan was almost up, he could still maintain his composure and comprehend the true essence of the Tao technique of dusk. End of chapter. Chapter 2406. After the seventh drum beat, Su Zimo paused for the longest time. In the eyes of Ing Tian and the others, Su Zimo would definitely not be able to withstand such a blow and would be stuck in a dilemma. Right now, he was experiencing extreme torture. If he took another step forward, the eighth drum beat would sound and Su Zimo would definitely die. However, if he retreated, he would be in his twilight years and would not have much lifespan left. From his high-spirited state earlier onto his frail state, it was merely a distance of 700 feet and less than 15 minutes. Who could withstand such a blow? After a long time, Su Zimo finally opened his eyes. With his back facing Ing Tian and the others, they naturally could not see the look in his eyes. It was as though time had passed and the world had changed. Su Zimo's body was nearing the end of its life. However, the light in his eyes grew brighter. Under the gazes of Ing Tian and the others, Su Zimo advanced once more. Don't! Lin Luo spoke instinctively. Haha! Ing Tian burst into laughter. You're too stubborn. Lang Qianqian shook her head in pity. Dong! The eighth drum beat sounded. However, to Ing Tian and the others' surprise, Su Zimo did not exhaust his lifespan. Instead, he staggered forward 100 feet. His footsteps were slow and even staggered. However, his lifespan did not show any signs of exhaustion. Ing Tian's laughter came to an abrupt end. Lang Qianqian, Jin Yu and Lin Luo were dumbfounded as well. This time round, Su Zimo did not stop in his tracks and continued forward. Dong! The ninth drum beat sounded. Su Zimo did not collapse and still had 10,000 years of lifespan left. It was as though the dusk drum's Dao technique was useless against him. This! Ying Tian and the others widened their eyes and were dumbfounded. In this short period of time, Su Zimo had already walked 900 feet. Logically speaking, his lifespan should have been exhausted, and he should have died long ago. However, he continued forward step by step towards the center of the hall. Could something have happened? Ying Tian and the others frowned. It must be that the Taoist technique of the Drum of Dusk has already dissipated in the hall. This thought flashed through Jin Yu's mind. Without making a sound, he secretly activated his movement technique and suddenly rushed forward. In the blink of an eye, he had traversed 10 feet. Dong! But soon, Jin Yu heard the fourth beat of the drum. His whole body trembled, and he hurriedly stopped in his tracks, his expression ugly. His lifespan had been reduced by another 40,000 years. In fact, Ying Tian had also speculated this possibility, but he was extremely cautious and didn't act blindly without thinking. Now that he saw Jin Yu's expression, he realized that the dusk drum's Dao technique was still here, not disappearing. This meant that it was extremely likely that Su Zimo had already comprehended the Dao technique within the Drum of Dusk, which was why he was able to withstand the impact of this Dao technique. Seeing that Su Zimo was getting closer and closer to the purple cloud clear talisman in the center of the hall, Ying Tian's heart was filled with unwillingness. But very quickly he felt relieved. He chuckled and said, "So what if this kid can obtain the purple cloud talisman? He lost almost 30 years of his lifespan. The price he paid is too great." Lin Luo sneered and said, "Don't tell me you think that immortal Emperor Chen Mu didn't have a backup plan? What do you mean?" Ying Tian frowned. Lin Luo said, "Su Zimo obtained the inheritance of the dusk drum Dao technique. Immortal Emperor Chen Mu set such a test. Would he allow his successor to die from exhaustion?" Right at this moment, Su Zimo had already arrived at the center of the hall. Reaching out, he took the purple cloud clear talisman and placed it in his storage bag. At the same time, he heard a crisp and distant bell sound that seemed to come from the end of the river of time, containing a mysterious and powerful power. This bell sound was completely different from the gloomy sound of the drum earlier. Within the bell sound, life was brimming and all living things were revived. Under the impact of the bell sound, Su Zimo's body was undergoing tremendous changes as well. His flesh and blood gradually became plump. The wrinkles on his face gradually disappeared and returned to normal. His white hair turned pitch black like ink. His entire being emitted a vigorous vitality. His figure stood straight, and his aura surged into the sky. He was even stronger than before. The lifespan that he had just lost had been fully recovered. The sound of the morning bell. Ying Tian immediately understood what had happened to Su Zimo after seeing this. He uttered each word clearly. Immortal Emperor Chen Mu had not only left behind the dusk drum Dao technique, but also the morning bell Dao technique. However, only those who had comprehended the dusk drum would have the chance to receive the baptism of the morning bell Dao technique. For example, although Ying Tian, Jin Yu, and the others also heard the sound of the morning bell Dao technique, they did not have the chance to receive the baptism of the morning bell Dao technique. Their lost lifespan could not be recovered either. Su Zimo stood at the center of the hall. His flesh, bones, tendons, and organs were receiving the baptism of the morning bell and dusk drum Dao technique. It was the same as receiving a new life after being past one's prime. Between life and death, under the stimulation of these two extreme forces, Qinglian's true body rapidly grew and transformed. The bottleneck that had troubled Su Zimo for a long time had also loosened. Su Zimo took a deep breath and plundered the heaven and earth's origin energy around him. He wanted to use this opportunity to break through to the 5th level of Heaven Yuan stage in one go. Just as he made this move, the entire hall underwent a shocking change. Endless heaven and earth's origin energy surged from the walls of the hall. It almost condensed into a solid substance and turned into streams of air that rushed into Su Zimo's body. Su Zimo's body seemed to have turned into a huge whirlpool. crazily absorbing the heaven and earth's origin energy around him. The heaven and earth's origin energy in this hall was too dense. It had far exceeded everyone's imagination. How can this be? Jin Yu looked around with a shocked expression. I know. Lang Qianqian looked around the hall and seemed to have understood something. She suddenly said, the entire jade clear hall is completely built with huge pieces of elemental holy rock. Ying Tian and the others were shocked. This jade clear hall was dozens of feet tall. Such a huge hall was actually built with elemental holy rock. In other words, any random piece of the jade clear hall was an elemental holy rock. To build such a hall, the amount of elemental holy rock was incalculable. It might have reached hundreds of millions or even more. Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian were princes and princesses. Their status was noble, and they did not lack cultivation resources like elemental holy rock. However, the two of them had never seen so many elemental holy rock. All of them were placed in front of them and built into a huge hall. Such a hall of elemental holy rock, let alone a heaven immortal, even a true immortal would be tempted. Boom! At this moment, the energy in Su Zimo's body had accumulated to the peak. He broke through the bottleneck and broke through the barrier, stepping into the 5th level of Heaven Yuan stage. A huge amount of heaven and earth's origin energy surged and boiled in his body. Su Zimo's aura was also rising rapidly. End of chapter. Chapter 2407. Jin Yu stared at Su Zimo with flickering eyes and suddenly said, this person is not weak. Now that he has advanced to rank 5 heavenly immortal, I'm afraid he will be even harder to deal with. The blue-robed boy from before had died in the hands of Su Zimo. Even the prince, Ying Tian, and the princess Lang Qianqian did not manage to gain anything from Su Zimo. Originally, Jin Yu thought that he could get a share of the loot in this chaotic battle between the 9 people. Now it seemed that it would be even more difficult. Not to mention Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian. Even Su Zimo and Lin Luo were no match for him. At this moment, the door of another hall rose up not far away. Everyone's eyes lit up and without hesitation, they all moved and rushed towards the hall. 9 people had rushed to this place in the Jade Clear Hall, and now there were only 5 people left. From the beginning to the end, there was no trace of the Jade Clear Jade Book. The further they went, the higher the probability of the Jade Clear Jade Book appearing. Since there was no chance to obtain the Purple Clear Cloud Talisman, there was no need to stay here. Su Zimo stabilized his cultivation and did not continue to absorb the yuan qi of heaven and earth. At the same time, he also moved and rushed towards the door of the hall. The 5 people entered in a single file. After entering the hall, their eyes fell on the center of the hall. There was a stone table, and on the surface of the table, there was a bamboo scroll that emitted a green halo. Jade Clear Jade Book. The 5 people's eyes lit up, although no one had seen the Jade Clear Jade Book before. When they saw this bamboo scroll, they knew that it was definitely the Jade Clear Jade Book. In this secret realm, the real treasure finally appeared in front of everyone. Lin Luo seemed to have sensed something, and suddenly let out a soft cry. After rushing into the hall, Lin Luo felt that her yuan qi of heaven and earth was sealed in her body, and could not be used at all. Even her divine sense was sealed in her sea of consciousness, and could not be detected. Not only her, Su Zimo, and the others also felt this abnormality at the same time. There is a powerful restriction in this hall. Lang Qianqian whispered. I know. Ying Tian suddenly laughed and said, the restriction in this hall is Immortal Emperor Chen Mu's final test. As far as I know, the Prime Clear Spirit Refinement Art, and the Grand Clear Refinement Art, and the Jade Clear Jade Book recorded a body refinement technique. Immortal Emperor Chen Mu has set up such a forbidding aura in the hall, so that we won't have to rely on any secret techniques, but only our flesh and blood, to compete with one another to determine the final successor. Lin Luo frowned. Her cultivation realm was slightly inferior to Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian. That was why she was able to join forces with Su Zimo to fight against the princes and princesses. She had to rely on her many divine powers and secret arts. She was not good with her fighting. According to her observation, although Su Zimo's combat strength was strong, And he could even fight against the princes and princesses. The things he displayed were all kinds of powerful secret immortal arts. If his primordial spirit and essence chi were sealed, he would not be able to use any secret arts and divine abilities. He looked like a weak scholar, and did not leak any chi earlier. He must have a weak physical body and an ordinary bloodline. Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian both had immortal emperor bloodlines. They had cultivated bloodline phenomenons, and had strong physical bodies. Although they had just released their bloodline phenomenons, and could not do it again in a short time, they were almost invincible in this hall. Lin Luo looked at Su Zimo worriedly. The situation was very unfavorable for them. Even if they joined forces with Jinyu, they would not be a match for Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian. It would be best if Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian could fight each other. They might have a chance. However, Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian were not fools. They would work together to clear the other obstacles before fighting for the clear jade book. Unlike Lin Luo, Su Zimo looked calm, as if he did not notice the slight changes in the situation. Lin Luo sighed in her heart. She could not send a message with her divine sense. She could only remind him softly, "Taoist Su, you must be careful. Try not to fight them head-on." Su Zimo smiled faintly and did not comment. If she was still a stage 4 heaven immortal, and could not use her chi, Qinglian might not be a match for Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian. But now, Qinglian's true body had grown to stage 5 heaven immortal. After releasing the Six Fangs divine power, her strength had increased tremendously. She could fight against Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian. "Taoists, why don't I join forces with you?" Jinyu pondered for a moment, then suddenly said to Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian, "Although my cultivation base is only at 5th stage heaven immortal, I can definitely suppress powerful enemies with higher cultivation base in close combat." Jinyu was a 3-legged golden crow. His bloodline was strong and he was not lying. Relying on the sun blood essence of the golden crows, his bloodline was boiling hot. His chi and blood surged like a volcano erupting. His aura was strong and unstoppable. Although he was not invincible in the same realm, there were few races that could fight against him. Jinyu pointed at Su Zimo and said in a low voice, "Leave this stage 5 heaven immortal to me. Taoists, you two deal with Lin Luo. As for the Jade Purity book, I will not touch it. I only hope that I can take something from Su Zimo's storage bag." Jinyu was very smart. He could make accurate judgments and had sharp senses. He could see that even if he joined forces with Su Zimo and Lin Luo, they would definitely not be a match for Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian in this hall. Not to mention, the two of them had strong physical bodies and bloodlines, and were invincible in close combat. Just their identities as princes and princesses were enough to show that they had other tricks up their sleeves. When they fought for other treasures, the two of them did not reveal too many trump cards. It was only because the Jade Purity book had not appeared yet that they had held back. Now that the Jade Purity book had appeared, it would definitely belong to the two of them. Instead of vainly fighting for it, it was better to take a step back and join forces with the two of them to get a share of the loot. A wise man submits to circumstances. Ying Tian smiled and said, "You can join forces with us. However, you don't have to deal with that Su Zimo. You just have to stop Lin Luo. With your 3-legged golden crow bloodline, it shouldn't be a problem to cross a small realm, right?" Jinyu hesitated for a moment and nodded. Of course. Although he agreed verbally, he cursed in his heart. Previously, he wanted to deal with Su Zimo because he wanted to take advantage of the situation. Since they were both rank 5 heavenly immortals, it would be extremely easy for him to suppress Su Zimo, and he would be able to save a lot of energy. In the end, if Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian were both injured, he would still have a chance to take advantage of the situation. Ying Tian clearly saw through his intentions and wanted him to deal with Lin Luo. Lin Luo's physical body and bloodline were not strong, so she was not a threat to him. However, Lin Luo's movement techniques were profound. It would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens for Jinyu to suppress her. On the surface, the two of them seemed to be joining forces, but they were still scheming against each other. "If I get entangled by Jinyu, I'm afraid I won't be able to escape," Lin Luo said in a low voice. You have no chance against Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian. The situation is not good. Why don't we leave this place first? Ha 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 ha. Ying Tian laughed loudly. He and Lang Qianqian guarded the two sides of the hall and said slowly, "It's too late to leave now." Chapter 2408. Su Zimo sneered and glanced at Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian. Then, he turned to Lin Luo and reminded her, "If you meet Jin Yu later, be careful of his bloodline phenomenon." The three-legged Golden Crow clan, in addition to their powerful bloodline, also had excellent movement techniques. However, Su Zimo had seen Lin Luo's movement technique before. It was obviously from an ancient lineage. It was very similar to the movement technique used by the black-clothed woman during his 10 tribulations. They were both mysterious and unpredictable. In this aspect, the three-legged Golden Crow clan did not have any advantage. Before Lin Luo could react, Su Zimo stomped on the ground. With a boom, his whole body shot toward the stone table in the center of the hall like a sharp arrow. No matter what, he had to get the Jade Purity book first. "How dare you?" Ying Tian reacted quickly. He instantly pushed his bloodline to the limit and chased after Su Zimo with astonishing speed. On the other side, Lang Qianqian moved with light steps. Her movement technique was even faster than Ying Tian's. The distance between her and Su Zimo was rapidly closing. There was a restriction in this hall. Su Zimo could not use the Great Peng Wings and other secret techniques to get rid of Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian. If there was no restriction, Su Zimo could release all his secret techniques. Not to mention Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian. Even ordinary true immortals would not be able to catch up with him. When Su Zimo was still 10 feet away from the stone table, Lang Qianqian had already caught up. Without hesitation she attacked. Whoosh! Lang Qianqian stretched out her slender white hand and slapped toward Su Zimo's back. This palm looked white and weak, but the power that burst out from this palm was extremely shocking. It was like a huge palace was pressing down. Its momentum was unstoppable. Su Zimo sensed the movement behind him. Without turning back, he also slapped back. Different from Lang Qianqian's palm technique, Su Zimo's palm was like a huge millstone that constantly rotated, twisted, and crushed. Great Chaos Palm. Bang! The two palms collided and separated immediately. Su Zimo and Lang Qianqian both trembled. A trace of astonishment flashed across Lang Qianqian's eyes. She circulated her blood qi and released the Emperor race's ultimate technique, White Jade Capital. Every palm she released condensed the majestic will of an immortal city, and was unstoppable. If she cultivated it to the extreme, she could summon 5 heavens' might. At the same time, 5 immortals and borrow the heavenly might to destroy everything. Lang Qianqian did not expect that her attack, not only to not be severely injured, but he was unscathed. The two of them clashed head-on, and they were actually evenly matched. Not only that, Su Zimo made use of the residual force from the collision of the two palms to move forward at an even faster speed. He was now several feet closer to the stone table. Exclamation point! Lang Qianqian's face darkened. At this moment, and was the Lady of June. If it were anyone else, they would not have been able to react in time, and could only watch as Su Zimo left. However, Lang Qianqian's expression was a little stunned that her palm did not succeed. She immediately waved her wide sleeves, which extended dozens of feet, and coiled towards Su Zimo like a spirit snake. Just as he was about to reach the stone table, Su Zimo suddenly felt his feet being bound by a robe sleeve, and could not move forward. The robe sleeve seemed to have a mind of its own as it coiled around Su Zimo's feet, and even bound his limbs. Break! Su Zimo's eyes lit up, and he took a deep breath. Like a snake that swallowed the sun and moon, he was reborn. 2 horns grew on his head, and he transformed into a divine dragon. His body was filled with flesh and blood, and his entire body swelled up instantly. Crack! Crack! The rope sleeve that bound his body instantly broke, and turned into countless pieces that floated down. Such a method was no threat to Su Zimo. However, this slight delay allowed Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian to charge forward at the same time and block Su Zimo's path. They joined forces and attacked. Su Zimo had to break through Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian's defense to obtain the clear jade book. On the other side, Jin Yu and Lin Luo had also started to fight. The battle between the two seemed intense, but it was difficult to determine the victor. In terms of strength, Jin Yu was indeed superior. However, with the help of a mysterious footwork, Lin Luo was able to turn danger into safety time and time again. No matter what kind of attack Jin Yu launched, Lin Luo could easily neutralize it. Of course, with Lin Luo's strength, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to suppress Jin Yu. Lin Luo fought with Jin Yu while paying attention to the battle not far away. She knew very well that no one at the same level could stop the combined forces of the princes and princesses. However, after watching for a while, she realized that the situation over there was completely beyond her imagination. Su Zimo was fighting 1 against 2. In close combat, not only was he not at a disadvantage, but he was also exchanging blows with Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian. Jin Yu also found an opportunity to glance over. This glance almost caused his jaw to drop. Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian joined forces, but they were still unable to suppress Su Zimo. Not only that, in terms of momentum, Su Zimo seemed to have the upper hand and was in control of the initiative. This, Jin Yu and Lin Luo were greatly shocked. How is this possible? In close combat, this Su Zimo was actually suppressing the princes and princesses. If this scene spread to the 9 heavens immortal realm, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. Whoosh! The bloodlines in Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian's bodies had been pushed to the limit, and they displayed the many close combat techniques of their respective imperial emperor clans. Their attacks were fierce. Su Zimo did not use his bloodline, but with the physical strength of Qinglian's true body, he was also able to fight the two of them head-on without being at a disadvantage. Although he was only one person, in terms of close combat techniques, his attacks were even more fierce and ferocious. Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian felt as if they were not facing a person, but a savage ferocious beast. Sometimes, it was as majestic as a divine dragon descending, sometimes as ferocious as a tiger descending the mountain, sometimes as agile as a monkey flying, sometimes as feminine as a python hissing. The two of them felt that it was very troublesome, and their expressions were ugly. They had cultivated until now and had fought countless battles. When had they ever encountered such a terrifying counterattack? In front of Su Zimo, all their advantages seemed to have disappeared. Their techniques were brilliant, but Su Zimo's combat techniques were even more profound. Their attacks were fierce, but Su Zimo's counterattacks were even more ferocious. Their attacks were ruthless, but Su Zimo was even more ruthless. In just dozens of breaths, the two sides had already exchanged more than 1,000 blows. The three of them were covered in injuries. However, as time passed, Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian's blood qi gradually weakened, and they were at a disadvantage. However, Su Zimo became more and more courageous as he fought. The current situation was within Su Zimo's expectations and control. After all, there was a difference of 2 cultivation realms between the two sides. Under the situation where he could not use his blood qi, it was difficult for Su Zimo to suppress Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian. However, during the fight, he had to injure the two of them, even if he had to risk being injured. In this hall, he could not use any divine abilities or secret techniques. This also meant that if he wanted to heal, he could only rely on the self-healing power of his physical body and bloodline. In terms of healing, no physique could compare to Qinglian's true body. Even the bloodline of an imperial emperor could not compare. As such, the more injuries the three of them had, the higher Su Zimo's chances of victory would be. As expected, in less than 15 minutes, the three of them had exhausted a lot of their energy. Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian's blood qi was depleted, and their strength gradually weakened. On the other hand, Su Zimo relied on the self-healing power of Qinglian's true body, and did not suffer any losses. That was why he became more courageous as he fought and suppressed Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian. Chapter 2409. Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian were being suppressed by Su Zimo, and their expressions became increasingly unsightly. The two of them had been keeping a trump card, and had not used it yet. This was their final trump card, and they would not use it unless they had no other choice. Actually, the two of them had the same thought. Even though Su Zimo had the upper hand and held the advantage, it was still very difficult for him to suppress and defeat the two of them. As long as this continued, the two of them could exhaust Su Zimo to death, even if they had to exhaust him. After all, Su Zimo was fighting 1 against 2. Furthermore, the two of them had large bloodlines. Their physiques were strong, and their endurance was astonishing. However, as time passed, the two of them gradually lost confidence in their hearts. Although Su Zimo had some wounds on his body like them, they healed extremely quickly. Furthermore, Su Zimo still looked lively and energetic. The more he fought, the braver he became. He did not show any signs of fatigue at all. On the contrary, the two of them felt their chi and blood weakening, and they could not hold on any longer. Just as the two of them were distracted, their movements inevitably slowed down, revealing a trace of weakness. To the two of them, this trace of weakness was completely negligible. After all, this was the cooperation of a Tharch and princess. Even if there were some flaws, they could quickly make up for it by working together. However, Su Zimo sensed something and would not miss this opportunity. His eyes shone brightly, and his aura soared as he locked onto Ying Tian. "How dare you get distracted in front of me?" Su Zimo shouted, his voice like thunder. Lang Qianqian sensed the sudden change in the situation, and hurriedly used the Tharch race's ultimate technique, White Jade Jing. With a wave of her hand, a huge and majestic ancient city appeared and pressed down on Su Zimo. As long as she could pin down Su Zimo for a moment, Ying Tian would be able to extricate himself from danger. Su Zimo ignored Lang Qianqian's close combat ultimate technique behind him. He leaped up like a dragon and stretched out his body. He swept his legs together and burst out with a ferocious force that collided with the descending ancient city. This move was incomparably stunning. It was like a divine dragon swinging its tail, possessing both form and spirit. Back on the Dragon Abyss Star, Su Zimo's primordial spirit had entered the corpse of a divine dragon and performed many of the dragon's close combat techniques. With the foundation of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness, he had already mastered those melee combat techniques over the years. In the eyes of Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian, Su Zimo seemed to have disappeared and was replaced by a divine dragon between them. Boom! The collision between the divine dragon's tail and the ancient city resulted in a deafening explosion. Lang Qianqian's delicate body trembled, and she took a few steps back. And Su Zimo borrowed this huge rebounding force, instantly rushed in front of Ying Tian, stretched out his hands, and grabbed Ying Tian's arms. Clang, clang, clang. Su Zimo stretched out his 10 fingers. 10 fingernails as sharp as knives flickered with a cold light. Ying Tian had not expected that he would suffer such a ferocious attack, just because his mind was wavering. By the time he came back to his senses, Su Zimo had already arrived before him. A tragic and bloody aura surged over, suffocating him. Ying Tian's eyes met with Su Zimo's and his mind was shaken, causing him to lose his courage. Not good. Ying Tian was shocked. In terms of aura, spirit, he was already at a disadvantage. He could not take it head-on. Ying Tian reacted immediately and retreated. At the same time, he clenched his fists and punched towards Su Zimo's hands, wanting to delay him for a moment. However, Ying Tian was still too slow. He had just raised his arms when Su Zimo's hands landed on his shoulders. With the slightest obstruction, the sharp fingernails pierced through his flesh. 10 fingernails pierced into Ying Tian's shoulders and into the gaps between his bones. Ugh! Ying Tian grunted. Before he could react, he saw a blur in front of his eyes. A figure rushed in front of him like a divine steed. Bang! In the next moment, a huge force slammed into his chest. Ying Tian's chest was wearing a heart protection mirror, which was equivalent to a spiritual artifact. Although it did not have the power of a spiritual artifact, its material was indestructible and blocked this huge force. If not for this, Su Zimo's knee strike would have been enough to collapse Ying Tian's chest and rupture his heart. This heart protection mirror blocked the power of Su Zimo's knee strike, but it could not dissolve the terrifying impact of this collision. Ying Tian's figure flew back uncontrollably. However, His arms were locked down by Su Zimo's fingers. At the same time, Su Zimo grabbed Ying Tian's shoulders with both hands and forcefully pulled him back. The two forces erupted at the same time, causing extremely brutal consequences. One of Ying Tian's arms was torn off by Su Zimo. Blood spurted out and dyed the hall red. Ah! Receiving such a heavy injury, Ying Tian could not help but cry out in pain, his expression pained. Divine abilities and secret arts could not be used in the hall, so he could not use the arm regrowth technique. His severed arm could not be healed for the time being, and blood flowed out. Lang Qianqian was shocked, her eyes filled with disbelief. The whole process was slow to describe, but in fact, it happened in an instant. When she had just dissolved Su Zimo's divine dragon swings its tail, and was about to step forward to help Ying Tian. This scene had already happened. In a battle of this level, there was no room for any mistakes. Even Lin Luo and Jin Yu, who were fighting on the other side of the hall, were shocked when they saw the situation, and their movements slowed down a little. Before this, who would have thought that the joint forces of the Crown Prince and Princess would be forced into such a situation by an unknown person? Jin Yu felt a lingering fear in his heart. At that time, he had volunteered to fight this seemingly weak scholar. Now that he thought about it, it was fortunate that he was stopped by Ying Tian. This person looked gentle and quiet on the outside, but who would have thought that he would be so cruel and terrifying when he fought? As the Crown Prince, even if Jin Yu had the ability to suppress Ying Tian, he would still be afraid and would not dare to injure him. However, this person did not hesitate at all, and actually tore off Ying Tian's arm. If he were to fight this person, he would have died on the spot. Although Ying Tian had lost his arm, he used this opportunity to escape into the distance, temporarily shaking off Su Zimo's pursuit. He was currently glaring at Su Zimo with a ferocious expression. Su Zimo did not continue to chase after Ying Tian. The distance between them was quite far. If he pursued Ying Tian, Lang Qianqian would take the opportunity to obtain the Jade Purity Book. At this thought, Su Zimo suddenly turned around and rushed toward Lang Qianqian behind him. You! Lang Qianqian had yet to calm down when she saw Su Zimo charging towards her like a starving ferocious beast. She could not help but feel shocked and enraged. Just now, she could not defeat this person, even if she joined forces with Ying Tian. Now that she was facing Su Zimo alone, she naturally felt uneasy. Su Zimo charged forward with a torrential aura from tearing off Ying Tian's arm. He was unstoppable, and even Lang Qianqian had to avoid him. However, Su Zimo would not let her escape unscathed. In the battle of the cultivation world, there was no room for mercy. Chapter 24:10. Su Zimo clenched his fists tightly. His flesh and blood were plentiful as he descended from the sky. He was majestic, as if he was holding a huge seal, and smashed it towards Lang Qianqian's face. Lang Qianqian raised her arms high above her head. Bang! The seal smashed into her arms, and a muffled sound rang out as if it had been struck by leather. Lang Qianqian groaned as she felt a sharp pain in her arms. The next moment, she felt numb and sore, unable to exert any strength. The power of Su Zimo's attack was too ferocious. It had actually scattered her blood and qi. However, Su Zimo's attack did not stop. He lowered his body and curled his body up. His hands were holding something in the air, and he suddenly shot up. This time, an extremely tragic murderous aura burst out. He's going to kill me. Lang Qianqian was shocked. Her arms were numb and her blood and qi were not flowing smoothly. Without much time to think, she tapped the ground lightly with the tip of her foot. Her entire body swayed slightly like a willow leaf, as she quickly floated backward and distanced herself from Su Zimo. Lang Qianqian only thought that Su Zimo wanted to kill her on the spot. She retreated without holding back and distanced herself by more than 100 feet in the blink of an eye. However, Su Zimo's attack came to an abrupt halt. He suddenly stopped and turned around to grab the Jade Purity Jade Scroll on the stone table behind him. Suppressing the princes and princesses was not his goal. The Jade Purity Jade Scroll was his goal. As long as he had the Jade Purity Jade Scroll in his hands, he would be able to control whether he wanted to advance or retreat or leave this place. After forcing Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian to retreat, the Jade Purity Jade Scroll was already within reach. Seeing that the scroll was about to fall into his hands, Su Zimo felt a sense of danger. He caught a glimpse of a dazzling golden light from the corner of his eye. The next moment, a strong aura of death enveloped him. Oh no! Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Although he did not know what the golden light behind him was, he could sense that it could definitely threaten his life. Even Qinglian's true body could not block it. Su Zimo did not hesitate, and decisively gave up on the Jade Purity Jade Scroll. He moved sideways and dodged to the other side. All of a sudden, a blazing white light burst out from the other side. It was murderous and descended instantly, cutting off Su Zimo's escape route. As soon as this white light appeared, the temperature in the entire hall suddenly dropped by a lot. Hiss! Su Zimo's expression. In this grand hall, he was unable to use his spirit consciousness or secret skills. It was extremely difficult for him to escape the encirclement of the two killer moves just by relying on the strength of his physical body. The Powers Cheese Jade Purity Jade Scroll of Heaven's origin. Furthermore, the second beam of white light was extremely mysterious, and had already sealed all of Su Zimo's escape routes. And Lang Qian's his from the white encirclement of the same. There was no way. He of his. And used chi, as chi. Was cheese. Was ins, it, they of their heads. To them. And looked to it to them. And in they, them. Ah, when Lin Luo saw Su Zimo's situation, she could not help but exclaim, Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian still have trump cards. Jin Yu muttered to himself. It's not that easy to defeat the princes and princesses. On the battlefield, with his life hanging by a thread, Su Zimo suddenly recalled the footsteps of a black-robed woman with a horsetail whisk. That footwork was extremely mysterious and full of mysteries. Su Zimo had only seen it once, and could not comprehend the mysteries of that footwork, let alone execute it. However, Lin Luo had executed it several times just now. The figures of Lin Luo and the black-robed woman seemed to have overlapped in his mind. Out of the blue, Su Zimo instinctively took a diagonal step towards one of the directions and landed precisely on a spot in the void. The encirclement of the two divine lights had almost sealed off all of Su Zimo's paths of retreat. The point that Su Zimo had just stepped on was the only chance of survival and loophole. With this step, Su Zimo instantly escaped from the encirclement of the two divine lights and left them behind. Lin Luo's eyes lit up. Disbelief appeared on her face. How did he? She murmured. After Su Zimo escaped, he could not help but break out in a cold sweat. Just now, if that mysterious footwork had saved his life, he would most likely have been heavily injured, or even died on the spot. Su Zimo looked back, and could not help but frown. In front of Ying Tian stood a tall golden-armored giant. He held a large golden sword in his hand, and his expression was grave and stern. Just now, that golden light was slashed out by this golden-armored giant. A puppet? Su Zimo murmured. The art of puppetry was an unorthodox Dao, and there were Taoist legacies in Tianhuang mainland as well. However, the strength of this golden-armored giant's puppet had already surpassed heavenly immortals and reached the level of perfected immortals. It was way too terrifying. Ying Tian carried such a puppet with him at all times. Not many perfected immortals could threaten him, let alone heavenly immortals. On the other side, a white-robed phantom stood in front of Lang Qianqian. He held a long sword and stood with his hands behind his back. There were some talisman shards scattered under the feet of this phantom. The second ray of white light should be the killing move released by this phantom. Unlike Ying Tian's puppet, this phantom seemed to be a type of talisman. Furthermore, the strength of this white-robed phantom had already reached the level of a perfected immortal. If nothing went wrong, this should be the final trump card of Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian. Initially, the two of them did not release it. On one hand, they felt that there was no need. On the other hand, they were wary of each other. The two of them did not expect that there would be someone who could take on the two of them in close combat and almost suppress them. Ying Tian even paid the price of losing his arm. Su Zimo, you're lucky to be able to dodge my golden-armored puppet sword. Ing Tian gritted his teeth and said coldly, "Wait until I get the Jade Purity Jade Book, then I'll take your life. Go." Ing Tian's mind moved. The golden-armored giant in front of him dragged his sword and strode toward the stone table in the middle. Clang! 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 Lang Qianqian raised her head slightly. The white-robed phantom in front of her fluttered and rushed toward the Jade Purity Jade Book on the stone table. At this moment, the Crown Prince and the Crown Princess did not hold back and released their trump cards. They both wanted to take the Jade Purity Jade Book for themselves. The golden-armored giant was still a step too slow. Seeing that the white-robed phantom was about to take the Jade Purity Jade Book, the golden-armored giant suddenly raised his sword and slashed at the stone table. The white-robed phantom flipped his sword and flicked it at the golden giant's sword. Clang! The two swords clashed with an ear-piercing sound and a blazing brilliance. Chapter 24:11. The golden-armored giant's swordsmanship was powerful and heavy, and the white-clothed illusory figure was somewhat inferior in a direct confrontation. However, the white-clothed illusory figure's sword light contained a trace of mysterious gentleness, releasing a kind of soft and nimble force that deflected the golden-armored giant's sword. This was already considered a battle between two true immortals. Originally, Su Zimo had the highest chance of obtaining the 3 Purity Jade Book. However, he did not expect that after Ing Tian and Lang Qianqian released their respective trump cards, the others no longer had a chance. Su Zimo stood in the distance, not daring to rashly approach. Regardless of whether it was the golden-armored giant or the white-clothed illusory figure, he was no match for them. The mysterious footwork that he released just now was also something he had used in a moment of desperation. Now if he were to use it again, he would have no clue. Clang! 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 The golden-armored giant and the white-clothed illusory figure continued to exchange blows. In the main hall, sword-like crisscrossed sparks flew, and killing intent filled the air, chilling to the bone. Rumble! The two's exchange of blows spread to the surroundings, and the stone table collapsed. The 3 Purity Jade Book flew up, and the bamboo scroll unfolded. Ing Tian and Lang Qianqian's eyes lit up. Almost at the same time, the golden-armored giant and the white-clothed illusory figure stretched out their palms. One of them grabbed one side of the bamboo scroll, while the other held a sword and fiercely collided. Boom! The two swords collided, and a huge force burst forth, causing the two figures to retreat at the same time. With a ripping sound, the 3 Purity Jade Book in the air was also unable to bear the pressure of the two forces, and was directly torn in half. The golden-armored giant held the other half of the 3 Purity Jade Book and retreated to Ing Tian's side. The white-clothed illusory figure took the other half and returned to Lang Qianqian's side, handing it over. Ing Tian held the other half of the 3 Purity Jade Book with an ugly expression. He had suffered a great loss this time. Not only did he not obtain a treasure like the Bodhi Seed, but he also only obtained half of the most important 3 Purity Jade Book. Lang Qianqian also frowned slightly, revealing a trace of regret and pity. However, after thinking about it, she felt that obtaining the other half was better than returning empty-handed. Moreover, with this half of the 3 Purity Jade Book, she could discuss with Ing Tian and combine the two into one. Both of them could cultivate at the same time and achieve a win-win situation. This matter was not urgent and could be discussed at length. When Su Zimo saw that the situation was settled, he prepared to leave. Even though he didn't get the 3 Purities Jade Booklet, he had gained a lot from this trip, including the Bodhi Seed and many other treasures, which were of great help to his cultivation. At this moment, Ing Tian suddenly turned around and looked at Su Zimo. He did not conceal the killing intent in his heart as he said in a cold voice, "Su Zimo next. It's time to settle the grudge of my broken arm." Lang Qianqian also turned around and looked at Su Zimo, who was not far away. The Crown Prince and Crown Princess both had killing intent in their hearts. They all had noble statuses. Although they had encountered many dangers throughout their cultivation journey, they had never been beaten so miserably by a cultivator of the same level. Furthermore, this was when the two of them had joined forces, and the opponent's cultivation was 2 levels lower than theirs. If they allowed Su Zimo to leave this place alive, it would be a disgrace to both of them. If possible, Ying Tian even wanted to kill Jin Yu and Lin Luo, who knew about this matter. All of a sudden, the broken part of the 3 Purities Jade booklet in Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian's hands emitted a godly glow. The divine light released a powerful force that tore apart the space around the two of them, causing it to collapse and form a dark and deep black hole. This is... Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian were startled. A space tunnel? Following this, Ying Tian blurted out as he collected his thoughts. Following this, the black hole emitted a strong suction force, dragging Ying Tian and the golden-armored giant beside him into it. No! Ying Tian yelled and tried to break free. Unfortunately, it was too late. The space tunnel gradually devoured him and the golden-armored giant before disappearing in the end. On the other side, Lang Qianqian and the white-robed figure were also dragged into the space tunnel and soon disappeared from the hall. In the blink of an eye, the space closed up as if nothing had happened. However, only 3 people were left in the hall: Su Zimo, Lin Luo, and Jin Yu. Su Zimo and Lin Luo furrowed their brows thoughtfully. Jin Yu's eyes flickered. He couldn't even defeat Su Zimo, not to mention Su Zimo and Lin Luo working together. Just now, Jin Yu saw Su Zimo's decisiveness and was extremely afraid. He was afraid that Su Zimo would react and kill him here. He was so scared that he took out a teleportation talisman from his storage pouch and tore it apart. What 3 Purities Jade booklet? It's just a scam. Jin Yu tossed out a sentence before disappearing into the spatial tunnel. He also left this place. Only Su Zimo and Lin Luo were left in the hall. The two looked at each other and laughed. Just now, that 3 Purities Jade booklet shouldn't be real. Su Zimo pondered and said, it should be a giant teleportation talisman. After Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian tore it apart, they were teleported away. I don't know where they went. Lin Luo also nodded and said, if that 3 Purities Jade booklet isn't real, then where is it? It should still be here. Su Zimo thought for a while and said, there are 3 possibilities. First, as Jin Yu said before he left, this is just a scam, a joke played by Immortal Emperor Chen Mu. Of course, I don't agree with this. Immortal Emperor Chen Mu went through so much trouble and left so many precious treasures in the hall. There is no need to play such a joke on the most important 3 Purities Jade booklet. Lin Luo said, the second possibility is that, as I said just now, the 3 Purities Jade booklet is still here. Su Zimo nodded. Lin Luo asked, what about the third possibility? Su Zimo said, the third possibility is that Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian were teleported to the location of the 3 Purities Jade booklet. Lin Luo understood and said softly, that is indeed possible. No matter what, let's search this place first. Su Zimo smiled and said, even if we can't find the 3 Purities Jade booklet, this huge hall made entirely of elemental spirit stone is still a great harvest. The two of them split up and searched the hall. After nearly half a day, they turned the entire hall upside down, but still couldn't find any trace of the 3 Purities Jade booklet. The two of them reunited and arrived outside the Jade Clear Hall. Lin Luo smiled bitterly and said, I'm afraid you are right. Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian were teleported to the location of the 3 Purities Jade booklet. Su Zimo was silent. Lin Luo sighed and said, what a pity. The teleportation jade booklet on the stone table should have been obtained by you, but it was snatched away by the two of them. At this time, Su Zimo and Lin Luo suddenly felt a mysterious and powerful force around them. After a moment of dizziness, the two of them actually left the secret realm. Immediately after, the secret realm in front of the two of them continuously shrank and condensed, gradually turning into a green ball of light. It floated over and stopped in front of Su Zimo. Chapter 24:12. What's that? Lin Luo reached out instinctively and tried to touch it. The moment her palm touched the green ball of light, she felt a sharp pain and retracted her palm hurriedly. Lin Luo looked at Su Zimo beside her and stuck out her tongue. I'm not allowed to touch that thing. Su Zimo was also confused as he squinted his eyes and looked over. Within the green ball of light, there was a bamboo scroll floating vaguely, emitting a mysterious glow. Su Zimo reached out tentatively into the green ball of light, and did not feel any resistance. Immediately after, he took the bamboo scroll from the green ball of light, and saw the words Jade Purity Jade Manual, written on the first batch of bamboo scrolls. It's the Jade Purity Jade Manual, Lin Luo exclaimed softly when she saw the words on it as well. Su Zimo nodded. Lin Luo's eyes revealed a look of envy. Fellow Taoist Su, this Jade Purity Jade Manual has clearly recognized you as its master. This is your opportunity. How could that be? Su Zimo was overjoyed to obtain the Jade Purity Jade Manual as well. However, there were still many things that he could not understand. Why would the Jade Purity Jade Manual recognize him as its master? Where did the secret realm that they were in earlier on go to? What did that secret realm have to do with the Jade Purity Jade Manual before him? Su Zimo injected his spirit consciousness into the Jade Purity Jade Manual and received a lot of information. After a long time, he revealed a look of realization and murmured softly, I see. What's going on? Tell me quickly, fellow Taoist. Although Lin Luo was somewhat disappointed that she did not obtain the Jade Purity Jade Manual, she could not hold back her curiosity and asked hurriedly. Su Zimo replied, This involves a secret of the 3 Purity Jade Manual. Ah! Upon hearing that, Lin Luo suddenly interrupted and shook her head. Since it's a secret, you'd better not tell me. Although I'm curious, I know that I can't pry into such things casually. It's nothing. There's no need to hide it from you. Su Zimo looked at Lin Luo and smiled. Although Lin Luo's cultivation was higher, she was still young and had the innocence of a young girl. In Su Zimo's eyes, she is more like a little sister just like Ning. Because of Lin Luo's background, Su Zimo naturally felt closer to her and trusted her. At the thought of Xiaoning, Su Zimo could not help but feel a sense of longing. At the thought of Xiaoning, he could not help but recall Night Spirit, Monkey, Lin Xuanji, and the other old friends of Heaven Wasteland region. Su Zimo looked into the distance lost in thought. Many of his old friends from Heaven Wasteland had ascended, but now, he'd only found Yin Beichen and Ming Zhen. There was no news of the others, and he didn't know if they were still alive. When Lin Luo saw Su Zimo's strange expression, she did not disturb him, and merely waited quietly at the side. A moment later, Su Zimo snapped out of his daze and looked at Lin Luo beside him, saying apologetically, I'm sorry. I was a little lost in thought when I thought of some old friends of the past. You know my father. He should be from Heaven Wasteland region as well, right? Lin Luo recalled what happened earlier and asked. Su Zimo nodded. Indeed. Lin Luo bowed deeply to Su Zimo. Fellow Taoist Su, no matter what, thank you for helping me obtain the immortal elixir and giving me the worryless fruit. Su Zimo hurried forward and lifted her up, saying seriously, Senior Human Emperor was injured because he defied the laws of heaven and earth to forcefully descend to the lower realm in order to save the humans of Heaven Wasteland mainland. If not for Senior Human Emperor, I would have died long ago, and the humans of Heaven Wasteland region would be doomed eternally. My meager strength is nothing at all. After pausing for a while, Su Zimo asked, I still don't know how Senior Human Emperor's injuries are. How is Senior Fairy Ling Long recently? Father's injuries still show no signs of healing. Actually, I don't know if this immortal elixir and the worryless fruit can heal Father's injuries. I can only try and hope that it will be effective. Lin Luo sighed softly, and worry that did not belong to her age appeared on her slightly young face. She said, Mother is fine. She has always been protecting Father by his side. Lin Luo paused for a while, wanting to say something but stopping herself. In fact, Lin Zhan's injuries had caused a huge commotion in the Green Firmament Celestial Realm. It had even spread throughout the 9 Firmament Celestial Realm and the entire Heaven Realm. Otherwise, juniors like Ying Tian and Lang Qianqian would not have known about this. The impact of this matter was huge. As time passed, the territory that Lin Zhan ruled also became unstable, and there were internal and external troubles. If not for Fairy Ling Long holding the fort, the huge celestial kingdom would have collapsed, and been divided by the other forces of the green firmament celestial realm. However, Lin Zhan's injuries had not healed for a long time, and Fairy Ling Long alone was unable to support such a huge figure. The pressure they faced was also increasing. If Lin Zhan was unable to recover, or met with some other unforeseen circumstances, they might be annihilated. Fairy Ling Long and her brother had never mentioned these things to Lin Luo. However, Lin Luo was sharp and intelligent. She could see and feel these things. The celestial kingdom that she was in now seemed huge, but it was actually very fragile. Any changes could cause unimaginable changes. These were all things that were hidden in her family. Although Lin Luo trusted Su Zimo, it was not good for her to say these things. Moreover, even if she said it, with Su Zimo's cultivation, he would not be able to help much. For some reason, Lin Luo felt an inexplicable sense of closeness from Su Zimo. It was not only because Su Zimo came from Tianhuang mainland, but also because Su Zimo gave her the feeling that he was more like her brother. Su Zimo saw that Lin Luo had a lot on her mind and did not ask further. He said, "Just now, I have not finished talking about the 3 pure jade books." Ing Tian once said that in the 3 pure jade books, the Supreme Pure Spirit Refinement, the Jade Pure Body Refinement, and the Supreme Pure Body Refinement Technique are all top techniques. However, this is not the only reason why the 3 pure jade books are called taboo manuals. It is also because each jade book is actually a world, a heaven and earth. Lin Luo was shocked and asked subconsciously, "Then the mystic realm that we are in just now is actually..." "That's right. We were in the Jade Pure Jade book just now." Su Zimo nodded. The Jade Pure Jade book was not hidden anywhere in the mystic realm. It was the mystic realm itself. The heaven and earth contained in the Jade Pure Jade book was also known as Qingwei Heaven. Qingwei Heaven was an existence that was extremely similar to Emperor Lord Bo Sun's Great Fiend Heaven. One had to know that one could only condense a world after entering the martial Emperor realm. If one could completely control the Jade Pure Jade book, it would mean that they could control a world in Qingwei Heaven. That was also the reason why there were similar legends. Even if one obtained a single volume of the 3 pure jade books, there was a high chance of entering the martial Emperor realm. Of course, given Su Zimo's current cultivation realm, he could only see the cultivation techniques in the Jade Pure Jade book, but could not open the heaven and earth within, let alone control Qingwei Heaven. Even so, as long as he had the Jade Pure Jade book, he would have a higher chance of entering the martial Emperor realm in the future. Furthermore, he could cultivate the top-tier cultivation techniques in the Jade Pure Jade book right now. Chapter 2413. Su Zimo said, "The true test left behind by immortal Emperor Chenmu is actually in the Great Hall with the morning bell and evening drum. Only by receiving the baptism of the morning bell and evening drum will one not be rejected by the final pristine jade book." Lin Luo suddenly understood. Even if Ing Tian and Lang Qianqian did not tear the teleportation talisman and were not teleported away, they would not be able to obtain the pristine jade book. Lin Luo had just tried to touch the pristine jade book when she suffered a backlash. Su Zimo's consciousness roughly scanned through the pristine jade book and felt that the cultivation method recorded in it was not just a simple method of refining the body, but also had other uses. However, now was not the time to cultivate it. "Where is this?" Su Zimo looked around and asked softly. Before he entered the pristine jade book, he was in Qianquan Academy. Now that he had exited the pristine jade book, he had obviously come to an unfamiliar place. He was surrounded by lofty mountains and steep ridges, with shady trees and no signs. Lin Luo pondered for a moment and said, "If I'm not mistaken, this should be the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain." Oh, Su Zimo was slightly surprised and did not know how Lin Luo had determined this. Lin Luo explained, "Before this, the inheritance of the pristine jade book appeared in the Supreme Firmament Immortal Domain, so the pristine jade book should be in the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain." After a short pause, Lin Luo pointed to the surroundings and said, "Moreover, there are many peach trees in the dense forest here." Just now Su Zimo also noticed this. The surrounding forest was densely covered with ancient trees, and there were indeed many peach trees growing in the forest. It did look a little strange. Even if there were peach trees in a normal ancient forest, there would not be so many of them around. Su Zimo frowned slightly. But what do these peach trees have to do with the Jade Heaven Immortal Realm? Lin Luo looked at Su Zimo with some surprise. Seeing that he looked confused and didn't seem to be faking it, she patiently explained. You should know that the vitality in the Heaven Realm is much denser than the vitality in other stars. It's because there's a sacred tree in the center of the heavenly world called the Divine Tree. It gathers the chi of heaven and earth and connects the 9 clouds immortal region, the pure land of bliss, and the demon region. Su Zimo nodded. Back then on Dragon Abyss Star, City Lord Su Shi had once mentioned this matter to him. Not bad, Lin Luo said. But in fact, other than the Jinmu tree in the center of the Heaven Realm, the 9 Heavens Immortal Realm, the pure land of bliss, and the demon realm, all have their own spiritual grasses and immortal trees that gather the chi of heaven and earth. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly understood and said, I heard that the pure land of bliss has 3 sacred trees, and the demon region also has the immortal tree. Lin Luo smiled and said, in the 9 Heavens Immortal Realm, there are also immortal trees that gather the chi of heaven and earth. For example, in the Divine Cloud Immortal Realm where you are, there is a black frost plum tree. It is said that this tree absorbs the coldest chi of heaven and earth. Thousands of miles around the plum tree are covered in ice and frost, and there are no signs of life. In the Qing Shao Immortal Realm, there is a fairy willow. It survived the great calamity and was reborn from the lightning. It is even stronger than before. At this point, Lin Luo paused for a moment before continuing. Just now, in the first hall of the Jade Clear Hall, I once fought with you over a branch. Su Zimo nodded. It was true. However, he got the branch first, and Lin Luo did not continue to fight with him. The two of them separated immediately after touching each other, and there was no more intense conflict. Lin Luo smiled and said, the branch you got was actually a branch of the immortal willow. I see. Su Zimo recalled the scene at that time. The reason he took the branch was because Qinglian's real body had a reaction and wanted to devour it. Now it seemed that the branch was a treasure of the same level as the carefree tree trunk. Su Zimo thought for a while and said, so the immortal tree in the Jade Cloud Immortal Realm should be a peach tree? To be precise, it is an ancient immortal peach tree. Lin Luo said, it is also because of this immortal peach tree that there are many peach trees in the Jade Cloud Immortal Realm. Su Zimo asked, where are immortal trees like the Black Frost Plum Tree? I have been in the Divine Cloud Immortal Realm for so many years. Why have I never seen them? Lin Luo smiled and said, such immortal trees are naturally hidden deep in the various imperial palaces. They are heavily guarded, and there are even immortal kings and imperial emperors guarding them. For example, the Black Frost Plum Tree is in the Divine Cloud Palace, and the immortal peach tree is in the depths of the Jade Cloud Palace. Usually there is no chance to see them. After a pause, Lin Luo continued, however, the various immortal realms will hold their own heaven roll competition. At that time, various factions and prodigies will be invited to gather in the imperial palaces, and there may be a chance to come into contact with these immortal trees. If you can be ranked on the heaven roll, you may have a chance to obtain some benefits from these immortal trees. You must know that these immortal trees are all nurtured by heaven and earth, and each has its own spirituality. Regardless of whether it is the leaves or the fruits, they are all rich in essence and powerful, and have an unimaginable effect on cultivation. Su Zimo nodded. The heaven roll competition was not only about fighting for a title, but also rich rewards and rewards. Back then, he had obtained many opportunities during the Earth Roll competition, and even completely repaired the prison-suppressing cauldron. Because of this, he was able to turn danger into safety during the trip to the Avicii Hell, and play a huge role. What are your plans? Su Zimo asked. I want to return to the Azure Firmament Immortal Realm as soon as possible, and let my father try these 2 treasures and see if they are effective. Lin Luo looked at Su Zimo with faint anticipation in her eyes, and said, if you have nothing to do, why don't you come with me to the Azure Firmament Immortal Realm? If my father and mother know that an old friend from the Tianhuang region has ascended, they will be very happy. Su Zimo had gained a lot this time, and originally wanted to return to the Qianquan Academy to cultivate in seclusion again. However, when he thought of seriously injuring the human emperor and fairy Linglong, a trace of worry arose in his heart. If he could see fairy Linglong, he could ask some questions that had been lingering in his heart all these years. Lin Luo saw Su Zimo hesitating and smiled and said, "There is no rush to decide. No matter what, we have to find a teleportation array first. If we rely on foot, whether it is the Divine Firmament Immortal Realm or the Azure Firmament Immortal Realm, it will take at least 100 years. Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief and said, "That's right." Lin Luo took out a map from her storage bag and carefully compared it. Such teleportation arrays that could cross the immortal realms were very rare. In the Divine Firmament Immortal Realm, only the 3 great immortal kingdoms, the 4 great immortal sects, and the Divine Firmament Palace had such teleportation arrays. The closest teleportation array to this place should be here. Lin Luo pointed at the symbol of an ancient city on the map and said, "Langfeng City." Su Zimo looked at the ancient city and softly read it out. Lin Luo nodded and said, "The Jade Firmament Immortal Realm is also known as the White Jade Capital. There is a poem saying that the White Jade Capital in the sky has 12 buildings and 5 cities. Immortals touch my head and tie my hair to immortality. Langfeng City is one of the 5 cities." End of chapter. Chapter 24:14. White Jade Capital, 5 cities, 12 towers. Suddenly, Su Zimo recalled the secret skill that Lang Qianqian used and fell into deep thought. As if she could read Su Zimo's mind, Lin Luo said, "The secret technique that Lang Qianqian used is called White Jade Capital. Although Lang Qianqian is the princess of the Jade Cloud Celestial Realm, her mother is from the Jade Cloud Celestial Realm. That's why she knows this secret technique." "No wonder." Su Zimo nodded. The two of them chatted for a while. Lin Luo took out a spirit boat from her storage bag and invited Su Zimo to board. They headed toward Langfeng City. The two of them stood at the bow of the boat, facing the wind. They looked down at the mountains and rivers under their feet and felt a sense of novelty. Su Zimo naturally did not need to be mentioned. This was his first time leaving the Divine Cloud Celestial Realm. Lin Luo was born in the Heaven Realm and knew a lot of things. However, this was also her first time in the Jade Cloud Celestial Realm. Moreover, she was younger than Su Zimo and was more curious. She looked around with excitement in her eyes. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had been traveling for half a day. Lin Luo stretched out her hand and counted with her fingers. Suddenly she said, "It seems that the Jade Cloud Celestial Realm is going to hold the Feast of Peaches soon." "The Feast of Peaches?" Su Zimo was slightly surprised. Lin Luo explained, "The Feast of Peaches is similar to the Divine Cloud Celestial Meeting in your world. It is a grand gathering of cultivators from various forces in the Jade Cloud Celestial Realm. It will be held in the middle of the 5 cities. It will be very lively. During the Feast of Peaches, the Heaven List will be selected. I wonder which city will the Feast of Peaches be held in?" Lin Luo murmured thoughtfully. At this moment, in the sky not far away, a huge warship broke through the clouds and sped over. The warship was dozens of feet long and about 100 feet tall. It had 7 floors and looked very grand. It could easily accommodate thousands of people. Runes were engraved all around the warship, forming an airtight protective barrier. The spirit boat that Su Zimo and Lin Luo were on seemed extremely small and ordinary compared to the warship. Dozens of figures stood on the deck of the warship. The person in the lead was a young man. His white robe was spotless, and he was dressed meticulously. His hair was neatly combed, and there was a sheathed long sword hanging from his waist. He looked quite handsome and unrestrained. Su Zimo glanced over. On the warship, the young man was a rank 9 celestial immortal. As for the others on the deck, their cultivation levels were not very high either. Most of them were either Earth Immortals or Celestial Immortals. Wherever this warship passed, its aura was not small, but in the eyes of Su Zimo and Lin Luo, it was nothing. Lin Luo was the daughter of the human emperor and fairy Linglong. Any army of self-cultivators that she could summon would be much more powerful than this warship. Su Zimo came from the Heaven and Earth Academy, which was also a sky-level sect in the divine firmament celestial realm. If there were no perfected immortals on this warship, it could at most be considered a sky-level sect. It was not worthy of their attention at all. The people on the warship obviously noticed Su Zimo and Lin Luo. The young man's eyes lit up when he saw Lin Luo. After pondering for a while, he cupped his fists and said loudly, "Fellow Taoists, you must be going to Langfeng City to participate in the Immortality Peach Banquet, right?" "Yes." Su Zimo nodded slightly and answered casually. "The Immortality Peach Banquet is in Langfeng City?" Lin Luo's eyes flashed with a hint of slyness. No one knew what she was thinking. The young man smiled and continued, "I'm Liang Yu of the Mystic Mirror sect. If you don't mind, why don't you board the warship? We can travel together." Su Zimo hesitated and looked at Lin Luo beside him. Lin Luo was thinking about something at this time, and was a little absent-minded. The young man called Liang Yu hurriedly said, "The journey to Langfeng City will definitely not be peaceful. Fellow Taoists, if you encounter some demon bandits, I'm afraid it won't bode well for you. It will be much safer if you travel with our Mystic Mirror sect." Su Zimo frowned. Demon bandits? How could there be demon bandits in the Jade Firmament celestial realm? At this moment, Lin Luo laughed and said, "Sure, thank you for the invitation, fellow Taoist Liang." Su Zimo did not know what Lin Luo was thinking, but he did not care. He remained silent and walked toward the warship with Lin Luo. Liang Yu cast a spell, and the barrier around the warship shook slightly and cracked open a gap that was enough for Su Zimo and Lin Luo to pass through. After boarding the warship, Su Zimo sized up Liang Yu. The young man did not seem to have any ill intentions, but his gaze swept past Lin Luo from time to time. "How should I address you, fellow Taoists?" Liang Yu asked with a gentle expression and a smile. Just as Su Zimo was about to speak, Lin Luo suddenly said, "I'm Lin Luo, and he's Lin Zimo. We're Tao companions." The corner of Su Zimo's mouth twitched, but he did not say anything. Although Lin Luo was young, he was extremely cautious and did not reveal his true name and background, as though he had some reservations. Naturally, Su Zimo would not take the initiative to reveal it as well. Hearing the words Tao companions, a look of disappointment flashed across Liang Yu's eyes. But soon he returned to normal and asked, "If I'm not wrong, you two should be itinerant cultivators, right?" "That's right." Lin Luo nodded. Liang Yu pondered and said, "If the two of you don't mind, why don't you join my Mystic Mirror sect? My Mystic Mirror sect is quite famous in the Jade Firmament Immortal domain. Can the two of us?" Lin Luo seemed to be in disbelief and asked tentatively, "Of course." Liang Yu hurriedly nodded and said, "Although Master is not here, as the eldest senior brother of the Mystic Mirror sect, I can accept the two of you as my disciples on behalf of Master. Fellow Taoist Su, if you have any questions about your cultivation in the future, you can ask me." A strange feeling arose in Su Zimo's heart. Liang Yu addressed her as fellow Taoist Su, but his eyes were looking at Lin Luo. After all, in Liang Yu's knowledge, Lin Luo's name was Su Luo. Lin Luo seemed to be a little hesitant. Behind Liang Yu, another cultivator of the Mystic Mirror sect said, "With senior brother's guidance, it can be considered an opportunity in your life. You must seize it well. Senior brother is already the strongest person in our Mystic Mirror sect. This time, you'll definitely become famous in one fell swoop and enter the heaven ranking." Su Zimo frowned slightly. According to this person, Liang Yu was the strongest person in the Mystic Mirror sect. The Mystic Mirror sect was too weak. How could such a mystic rank sect have some fame in the Jade Firmament Immortal domain? Or was it that this Liang Yu was just blowing his own trumpet? "All right." Lin Luo agreed with a smile and said, "Thank you, senior brother Liang Yu." Chapter 24:15. Seeing that Lin Luo had agreed, Liang Yu was secretly delighted. The first time he saw Lin Luo, he secretly admired her. Although he was slightly disappointed when he heard that Lin Luo had a Dao companion, he could see that this slender and elegant girl was still pure. As long as he invited the two of them to join the sect, there would be many opportunities to interact in the future. In Liang Yu's opinion, regardless of cultivation, bearing, identity or status, he was far superior to the seemingly weak green-robed scholar. There was still a long way to go. If he could be ranked on the heaven roll in this Feast of Peaches and become famous in Jade Heaven, would he be afraid that this girl would not be moved? Su Zimo knew that Lin Luo must have her own plans, so he did not stop her. He remained silent and did not have a sense of existence. In the eyes of everyone, compared to the suave Liang Yu, Su Zimo was naturally too inferior. Lin Luo accompanied Liang Yu and pretended to chat for a while before she said apologetically, "Senior brother Liang, I wonder if there is a place to rest here. We have traveled all the way and are a little tired." Yes, yes. Liang Yu hurriedly nodded and personally led Su Zimo and Lin Luo into a room. After Liang Yu left, Lin Luo spread out her divine sense and scanned the surroundings. Seeing that there was no one around, she said to Su Zimo, "The two of us will definitely encounter a lot of trouble on the way to Langfeng City. Temporarily joining this mystic mirror sect can save us a lot of trouble and also hide our identities." Trouble? Su Zimo frowned slightly and asked, "Is it the demon bandits that Liang Yu mentioned?" Lin Luo nodded and said, "The distribution of forces in Jade Heaven Celestial Realm is different from other celestial realms. Here, with Jade Heaven Palace as the center and the 5 cities and 12 buildings as support, the entire Jade Heaven Celestial Realm is ruled. In Divine Heaven Celestial Realm, there were 4 great sects and 3 great celestial kingdoms. But in Jade Heaven Celestial Realm, there were no heaven-level sects or celestial kingdoms. There was only one super force, Jade Heaven Palace. Under the heavens, all lands belong to the king, and all the people on the shores of the land are the king's vassals." Lin Luo said, "The 5 ancient cities of Langfeng, Xianpu, Tianyong, Xianghua, and Jingzhou attract the true immortals of the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain. All those who can step into the true immortal realm have the goal of joining the 5 immortal cities. And once a cultivator steps into the Grotto Heaven and becomes an immortal king, he will be qualified to join the 12 towers." Su Zimo nodded secretly. According to what Lin Luo said, the Jade Cloud Palace, the 5 cities, and 12 towers occupied almost all the resources in the Jade Cloud Immortal Domain. If he wanted to advance further, he would have to join them. In this way, there would be no Earth rank or Heaven rank forces in the Jade Firmament Immortal Realm. Most of the true immortals in the Jade Firmament Immortal Realm were gathered under the 5 immortal cities. The upper limit of the sects established by Sky Immortals was the Mystic Mirror Sect. Lin Luo continued, "Of course, the 5 immortal cities will also use the Immortality Peach Banquet as an opportunity to recruit some Sky Immortals. But those who can join the 5 immortal cities are almost all the top Sky Immortals. And most of the territories outside the 5 immortal cities are in a state of chaos with no one in charge. There are many sects and naturally there are many bandits. It is said that many of them come from the demon domain and are called the demon bandits." Su Zimo frowned and asked, "No one in the 5 immortal cities cares?" According to what Lin Luo said, with the strength of the 5 immortal cities, any one of them would be enough to sweep away all the demon bandits in the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain. Lin Luo shook her head and said, "All these years, I have not heard of anyone from the 5 immortal cities showing up. I heard from my brother that this is the intention of the Jade Cloud Palace's experts. Only by constantly fighting and killing can it be possible to cultivate true geniuses." Su Zimo was deep in thought. Lin Luo continued, "This Immortality Peach Banquet is also a rare gathering in the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain. At that time, cultivators from all over the world will gather here, and there will be all kinds of large-scale trading and auctions. During this period, the demon bandits will move out one after another to stop and kill the cultivators who are going to the 5 immortal cities. Once they succeed, they will get a lot of treasures and resources." The two chatted for a while more before they separated to cultivate and recuperate. Just as Lin Luo said, Along the way, the Mystic Mirror sect did encounter several demon bandits' harassment and obstruction, but they were all resolved by Liang Yu and the others. For a few days, Su Zimo had been in seclusion in his room, comprehending the cultivation methods in the Pure Jade book. The time was short, and with his talent, it was impossible for him to cultivate it successfully. But even so, Su Zimo had comprehended many mysteries from this cultivation method, and gradually understood the power of the Pure Jade book. The reason why the Pure Jade book was ranked as a taboo secret manual was not only because each jade book was a world of its own. The Pure Jade book was not just a body tempering technique. If he could successfully cultivate the cultivation methods in the Pure Jade book, Su Zimo's combat strength would definitely increase greatly. Su Zimo prepared to head to the teleportation formation after arriving at Langfeng City, and returned to the Heaven and Earth Academy to cultivate the Pure Jade book in seclusion. 5 days later, the huge warship suddenly shook, swayed, and slowly came to a stop. Su Zimo's expression did not change, as he held the Spirit Essence Stone with both hands, and continued to absorb the essence chi of heaven and earth to cultivate. Lin Luo was also cultivating at the side without any intention of getting up. Similar situations like this happen frequently these days. They were all intercepted by some bandits with the Mystic Mirror sect's cultivators blocking outside. They passed through smoothly without any danger. Before long, Liang Yu suddenly barged in with a terrible expression and whispered, "Fellow Taoists, the fiend bandits outside are hostile this time round. You guys have to be careful." Pausing for a moment, Liang Yu looked at Lin Luo. "Fellow Taoist Su, follow behind me in a while. If the situation turns bad, I'll bring you away. It's that serious." Lin Luo frowned. Su Zimo stood up and tidied his clothes. "Let's go out and take a look." The three of them left the room and walked to the bow of the ship. There were more than 10 gigantic warships in midair ahead, forming a semicircle that surrounded the warship of Mystic Mirror sect. On the dozens of warships, flags fluttered with 2 gigantic words, "Broken Army." There were densely packed figures standing on the warships. At a glance, there were at least tens of thousands of them. All of them were ferocious and glared at Mystic Mirror sect with murderous intent. Be it in terms of numbers or warships, they far surpassed Mystic Mirror sect. Bang! 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 At the bow of the warships, more than 100 celestial immortals were working together, releasing mystic arts to attack the protective barrier of Mystic Mirror sect's warship. The light of the barrier flickered and dimmed. It was only a matter of time before it was broken. The warship swayed slightly, seemingly unable to withstand the attacks. Liang Yu stood at the bow of the ship, facing the Broken Army bandits. "Fellow Taoists, how many elemental spirit stones do you want? Why don't you name a number?" "Ha ha ha ha." A loud laugh came from the leading warship. Next, a man in a black cloak walked out. His face was full of beard and his eyes were fierce. He grinned at Liang Yu. "I want everything of Mystic Mirror sect, including your lives. Consider yourself unlucky to have met Broken Army. Reincarnate into a better body in your next life." Ha 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 ha. The bandits roared with laughter. Chapter 24:16. Amidst the laughter of the bandits, cracks had already appeared on the protective barrier outside the Mystic Mirror sect's warship, and it would collapse at any moment. "This is bad." Liang Yu's expression was ugly as he turned to Lin Luo and whispered, "I didn't expect the leader of the Army Destroyer bandits to come personally. I'm afraid we won't be able to escape today." "Is he very powerful?" Lin Luo asked with a sideways glance. Liang Yu revealed a smile that was uglier than crying. "The Army Destroyer bandits have been unstoppable in the Jade Firmament Immortal domain for many years, and they are the most ferocious bandit group. There are 9 leaders in the Army Destroyer bandits, and they are all peak stage 9 Heaven Immortals. The leader of the Army Destroyer bandits is even more terrifying. He has killed countless people, and is cruel and ruthless. Legend has it that his strength can even be ranked on the Heaven roll." Lin Luo looked at Liang Yu and said, "Senior brother Liang can also make it to the Heaven roll, right? Since you are all on the Heaven roll, your strength shouldn't be too different, right?" Liang Yu's face was red as he coughed lightly and stammered. My strength might still be a little short of the heaven roll. On the other side, on the warship of the army destroyer bandits, many people's eyes lit up when they saw Lin Luo. Although Lin Luo was standing in the crowd of the Mystic Mirror sect, her bearing and appearance were extraordinary. She was like a crane in a flock of chickens, and would be noticed immediately. "Boss, that girl looks good. I will personally capture her for you later." A man with a face full of smiles said to the bearded man in a flattering manner. "Okay." The bearded man nodded and said, "Look at her delicate skin. Old Seven, your hands and feet are rough. Be careful, don't hurt her." "Don't worry, boss." The seventh leader patted his chest. "What about the others?" Another leader asked. The bearded man glanced at the warship of the Mystic Mirror sect and waved his hand casually. The leader understood. He pointed at Lin Luo from afar and roared, "All of you listen up. Other than that woman, kill everyone else. Don't leave a single one alive." "Yes." Boom. At this moment, the defensive barrier of the Mystic Mirror sect's warship collapsed. The devil bandits on the dozen or so warships let out cries of excitement. Their eyes were crimson red, and their killing intent surged as they charged over. When the cultivators of the Mystic Mirror sect saw this, they did not have the heart to resist at all. Almost as soon as the two sides collided, they were defeated and fled in all directions. The sixth master and seventh master of the defeating armies also rushed towards Liang Yu and Lin Luo. "Hurry up and leave. I'll hold them off for now," Liang Yu shouted at Lin Luo. He pulled out the sword at his waist and took out an ancient mirror, directly blocking the two leaders of the army destroyer clan. Scram! The two heads exerted their strength at the same time, erupting with that mystic technique. Liang Yu's expression changed greatly, and he hurriedly brought out his technique to resist. However, Liang Yu was still a little lacking, as he was fighting one against two. His sword was sent flying on the spot as he retreated continuously, instantly falling into a dangerous situation. Lin Luo waved her hand slightly. The long sword in Liang Yu's hand turned into a beautiful arc and landed in her hand. Since she didn't want to reveal her identity, she naturally wouldn't use her magic treasure. Swoosh! A figure suddenly barged in between Liang Yu and the two leaders. She was graceful like a flood dragon, wielding a long sword and attacking continuously. Sword light rippled like the ripples of a lake, continuous and unending. After a series of clinking sounds, the sound of collision came to an abrupt end. Liang Yu, Lin Luo, and the two leaders were frozen in midair. In the next moment, the two leaders' eyes dimmed, and their life auras plummeted. A shocking bloody wound had already appeared between their brows. Their figures fell from midair, their foreheads pierced by the sword light. Their essence spirits were extinguished, and they were already dead. The bearded burly man standing on the warship had a slight change in expression, and his gaze focused. This young girl was only in the realm of a level 7 heaven immortal, but her sword technique was sharp and exceptionally brilliant. Within 3 breaths, she had killed 2 leaders of the defeating armies. The bearded burly man boasted that he was knowledgeable, but he had never seen such a terrifying sword technique. Liang Yu of the Mystic Mirror sect was also stunned on the spot. He looked at Lin Luo as if he had seen a ghost. "Sixth master, seventh master. What's going on?" The expressions of the remaining heads changed drastically as they shouted out loud. "Boss, we can't let this girl live. Let's kill her to avenge our brothers." The third leader gritted his teeth in hatred. "Third leader, be careful." Someone shouted a warning. A sword light appeared and flashed by the third leader's side, as if it had never appeared. In the next moment, the third leader's entire head neatly fell from his neck. His sea of consciousness had been shattered by the sword chi, and he was dead. Before the defeating armies and the other leaders could join forces, Lin Luo had already charged forward with her sword in hand. Although she was only a level 7 heaven immortal, she was still the daughter of the human emperor and fairy Ling Long. Her talent was extraordinary, and her combat strength was strong. She could even cross 2 small realms and kill a level 9 heaven immortal. A few fiends rushed forward, wanting to stop Lin Luo, but they were all killed by her sword. Lin Luo rushed onto the warship as if there was no one around. "Junior brother Lin, what's going on?" Why is junior sister Su? Liang Yu looked at Su Zimo, who was not far away, and asked in a trembling voice. Su Zimo smiled but did not say anything. At that moment, 6 fiends rushed toward Su Zimo. Although they were not level 9 heaven immortals, their cultivation levels were above Su Zimo's. Liang Yu was just about to make a move to help. But he had a quick thought, and he stopped moving and didn't make a move. He had always regarded Su Zimo as his rival in love. If Su Zimo died in the hands of the fiends, it would be exactly what he wanted, and he would not be blamed. Junior brother Lin, be careful. At that thought, Liang Yu pretended to be kind and reminded him, but he did not move. However, before he could finish his sentence, he saw an extremely shocking scene. Bang! 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 Poof! 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 The 6 fiends had just rushed in front of Su Zimo. Before they could release their weapons, divine abilities, and secret techniques, Su Zimo had already attacked. That seemingly frail scholar suddenly attacked like a bolt of lightning. Every movement of his seemed to contain the power of 10,000 caddies, as it bombarded the bodies of the 6 devilish bandits. After a series of dazzling attacks, the 6 fiends were all dead on the spot. Some of their bodies were smashed into pieces. Some of their heads were smashed into pieces. Some of them were smashed into a bloody mist, leaving no corpse behind. Liang Yu's mouth was agape, and his eyes were wide open in shock. Facing the siege of the 6 fiends, even he would have to spend a lot of effort to deal with them. However, this weak scholar took less than a breath. In close combat, even the crown prince and princess could not block Su Zimo's attacks. What were these 6 fiends? At that moment, Su Zimo came to Liang Yu's side and slowly extended his hand. Psst! Looking at that fair and weak palm, Liang Yu felt a sense of oppression that he had never felt before. It was as though he was suffocating as his body stiffened, and he could not move at all. Liang Yu wanted to explain, but for some reason, he could not even speak. He could only hear his own intense heartbeat. The palm landed gently. There was no shocking divine power or fatal killing intent. However, Liang Yu felt as though he had taken a trip to the gates of hell. Su Zimo patted Liang Yu on the shoulder and said with a fake smile, "Just now. Thank you for your reminder, senior brother Liang." "Why, junior brother Lin, you're welcome." Liang Yu's face was pale, and he could not control his voice from trembling. Su Zimo did not wait for Liang Yu's reply, and had already turned to leave. Chapter 24:17. Lin Luo charged into the crowd. Her sword glinted coldly as she dashed left and right. Relying on a mysterious footwork, the army-shattering demon bandits were unable to harm her at all despite their numbers. In less than a quarter of an hour, more than half of the 9 leaders were killed by her. Only 3 leaders remained with ugly expressions, and thoughts of retreating emerged in their minds. Lin Luo's attack was not a blind slaughter. Instead, she targeted the 9 leaders of the army-shattering demon bandits. When the battle erupted, the army-shattering demon bandits did not suffer many casualties. However, the 9 leaders were completely terrified by Lin Luo's slaughter. Just now, the bearded man noticed the commotion at Su Zimo's side. Seeing that Su Zimo was also walking over, a trace of decisiveness flashed across his eyes. He ordered in a deep voice, "Retreat." Before he finished speaking, the other 2 leaders turned around and fled. The remaining army-shattering demon bandits were numerous in number. However, seeing the 3 leaders flee, they naturally did not dare to stay and dispersed in a hubbub. Lin Luo held her sword and smiled as she watched the fleeing bandits. She had no intention of chasing after them. This trip to Langfeng City should not cause unnecessary trouble. Lin Luo returned to the enigmatic mirror sex warship. She handed the sword back to Liang Yu, who was still in a daze, and said with a smile, "Senior Marshal Brother Liang, many thanks for your magic weapon. It's really sharp." Liang Yu subconsciously reached out and wanted to receive the sword. However, he seemed to have thought of something, and his arm trembled as he withdrew it. Liang Yu smiled embarrassedly and said, "Su, Junior Marshal Sister Su, if you like this sword, please accept it." Lin Luo smiled and handed the sword to Liang Yu. She turned around and walked toward Su Zimo. She said, I'll have to trouble senior martial brothers to clean up the things on the battlefield. This is what we should do, Liang Yu hurriedly said. In a moment, I will tidy up the things on the battlefield and send them to junior martial sister Su's room. Lin Luo and Su Zimo returned to the room. She pondered for a moment and said, "These army-shattering demon bandits do not seem to be from the demon domain." Yes. Su Zimo also nodded and said, "Although these people's methods are cruel, their cultivation methods and secret arts are similar to those of the immortal sections." Lin Luo said, "Don't worry about him. We'll reach Langfeng City in a few days. At that time, we'll activate the teleportation array and leave." After pausing for a moment, Lin Luo sighed softly again. A trace of worry hung between her brows as she said, "Originally, I had planned to hide my identity and participate in the Feast of Immortality Peaches to obtain a good ranking on the Heaven list. If you can enter the top 10 of the Heaven roll, you will definitely be rewarded handsomely. You might even have the chance to taste a peach of immortality that blossoms and bears fruit once every 100,000 years." Su Zimo asked, "Why don't you want to go? Father's injuries have not healed yet. It's better to bring the 9 orifices Yang restoration pill and fretless fruit back as soon as possible." Lin Luo said, "There are too many variables in the heavenly ranking tournament. We're in the Jade Firmament Immortal domain, and I'm only a Tier 6 Heavenly Immortal. If something were to happen..." Su Zimo nodded with a trace of admiration in his eyes. The two of them continued to cultivate in seclusion in the room. The interception of the army vanquishing bandits was just a small interlude to them. The two of them did not take it to heart. After this incident, no one from the Mystic Mirror sect dared to disturb them. Even Liang Yu, who was quite attentive before, did not dare to pester Lin Luo. A few days later, they arrived at Langfeng City. Standing on the warship and looking at the immortal city from afar, they could only see that the city walls had turned into a black line that spread continuously on both sides of the horizon. It was impossible to see the end of it at all. One could imagine the size of this immortal city. According to Lin Luo, this immortal city could be considered one of the largest forces in the Jade Firmament Immortal domain. It gathered all the perfected immortals in the world here. Such a immortal city should indeed be so imposing. In terms of the number of perfected immortals, this Langfeng City far surpassed the Heaven and Earth Academy in the Divine Firmament Immortal domain, the Great Gene Celestial Kingdom, and other sky-level sections. For example, a Heaven Immortal expert was nothing in Langfeng City. Moreover, in time for the Immortality Peach Banquet, that was held once every 100,000 years, the prodigies of the other 4 immortal cities would also gather here. The Mystic Mirror Sect's group was too ordinary in Langfeng City, and it was very difficult to attract the attention of others. However, when they entered Langfeng City, they were immediately targeted. It was the first time the Mystic Mirror Sect's group had come to Langfeng City. Seeing the novel scene in the city, the bustling and wide streets, they were all very curious. On the stalls on both sides, there were countless rare treasures, dazzling everyone's eyes. Only Su Zimo and Lin Luo looked calm, as if they did not care about all this. Lin Luo was of noble birth, and her parents controlled a celestial kingdom. She was not unfamiliar with everything around her, so she naturally had no interest. Su Zimo, on the other hand, was thinking about another matter. He had already discovered that his group was being targeted. Although his cultivation level was not high, his spiritual perception was very strong. In this crowded street, he could still detect the hidden hostility in the surroundings. However, Su Zimo could not determine the identity of these people. Logically speaking, he and Lin Luo had just arrived in the Jade Firmament Immortal domain and had just entered Langfeng City, so they did not know many people. There was no reason for them to attract strong enemies. Or rather, they were not coming for them, but to deal with the Mystic Mirror sect? Someone is following us. Su Zimo reminded Lin Luo through his spiritual perception. Lin Luo was slightly startled. In Langfeng City, people came and went, and their spiritual perception was chaotic and intertwined. Even if one released their spiritual perception, it was difficult to detect anything. Therefore, she did not notice at all until Su Zimo reminded her. She gradually became nervous, and her expression became serious. At this moment, not far ahead, a cultivator army in armor walked toward the Mystic Mirror sect with large strides and an aggressive aura. It was obvious that they did not come with good intentions. Su Zimo scanned with his spiritual perception and frowned inwardly. These immortal soldiers were composed of Stage 9 Heaven Immortals, and they exuded an iron-blooded murderous aura. They were obviously much more difficult to deal with than the army vanquishing demon bandits they had encountered before. It's the Imperial Guards of Langfeng City. Isn't that Colonel Kong Han? Alerting the Imperial Guards? What's going on? These people are going to suffer. I heard that Kong Han is ruthless. Those who fall into his hands will suffer a fate worse than death. Get out of the way, get out of the way. Several immortal soldiers shouted loudly, and the surrounding cultivators looked fearful and moved aside. Swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, on the buildings on both sides of the street, in the corners and in the alleys, figures suddenly rushed out. They were expressionless, holding huge shining crossbows in their hands. The arrows were already on the strings, and they were all aimed at Su Zimo and the others. The Mystic Mirror sect's people's faces changed drastically. They felt a chill run down their spines, and their hair stood on end. Even Su Zimo felt a sense of crisis. Those shining crossbows were clearly specially made Dharma treasures. Any arrow fired from a crossbow would be as powerful as a peerless divine power. What's going on? Liang Yu hurriedly stepped forward and forced a smile at the surrounding immortal soldiers. He said, "Exalted immortals, is there a misunderstanding here?" Misunderstanding? The leading man sneered. His gaze paused on Su Zimo and Lin Luo for a while, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. This man was thin, with triangular eyes and a hooked nose. His name was Kong Han, and he was a general in Langfeng City. Kong Han said sternly, "I suspect that you are impersonating demon bandits and wantonly killing cultivators who came to participate in the Feast of Peaches. This is unforgivable." As soon as these words were spoken, it caused an uproar. End of chapter. Chapter 24:18. Most of the cultivators who came to the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain had experience fighting against the devilish bandits and naturally hated them. Hearing Kong Han's words, countless hateful gazes instantly gathered on the Mystic Mirror sect's people. Kill them. How dare you come to Langfeng City? You're too arrogant. We must behead these devilish bandits in public as a warning to others. Half of our Beast Heart gang was slaughtered by these devilish bandits. Let them pay with their blood. Many cultivators cursed angrily, wishing they could tear the Mystic Mirror sect to pieces. No, it's a misunderstanding. We're cultivators of the Mystic Mirror sect, not devilish bandits. Liang Yu's face was pale as he tried to explain. More and more cultivators gathered here, and the crowd surged. The cultivators who came later didn't know what was going on at all. They only heard the cultivators in front say that devilish bandits had sneaked into Langfeng City and were caught and began to curse. The crowd was agitated, and the voices of the Mystic Mirror sect's people were almost inaudible under the vast momentum, and were drowned out in the blink of an eye. No one cared about them at all. The omnipresent pressure was like a stormy sea that could swallow the Mystic Mirror sect at any time. At this time, Kong Han and the others didn't even need to do anything. As long as they withdrew, the surrounding cultivators were enough to tear the Mystic Mirror sect to pieces. A cold smile hung on Kong Han's lips as he looked at the panicked Mystic Mirror sect cultivators and the surrounding cultivators who were shouting to kill. He was very pleased with himself. The feeling of being in control of everything gave him a great sense of accomplishment. Kong Han's gaze fell on the blue-robed scholar and the bright girl in the Mystic Mirror sect, and couldn't help but frown. Unlike the surrounding Mystic Mirror sect cultivators, the blue-robed scholar's expression was calm, as if he didn't feel the surrounding pressure at all. He was abnormally calm. Even the bright girl didn't seem to be panicking much. Kong Han's face darkened. This made him feel a sense of defeat. He had long known that the strongest people in the Mystic Mirror sect were the man and woman in front of him. But this was Langfeng City. No matter how strong the man and woman were, They were just fish on a chopping board in his territory. As long as he wanted to, he could slaughter them at will. At this moment, Kong Han discovered that a trace of mockery flashed across the eyes of the green-robed scholar, who was looking at him. Kong Han was instantly provoked by this gaze, and was about to order to kill the Mystic Mirror sect. Just as he spoke, the blue-robed scholar opposite him spoke at the same time. Roar! An extremely shocking dragon roar erupted and resounded throughout the world. It was enough to pierce through the clouds. It contained its endless majesty. Under the shroud of this roar, the surrounding sound waves were instantly. It was as if this voice was the only thing that existed in this world. Under this dragon roar, all the cultivators felt a sense, from the depths of the Mystic Mirror sect. Some cultivators even felt an uncontrollable fear, an indescribable sense of inferiority. Plop! Plop! Soldiers, Mystic Mirror God, the Mystic Realm. Army Mystic Sect Cultivators Sect Army, Lang Mystic Mirror Sect. Heaven and earth fell silent after the dragon roar. Su Zimo's aura alone suppressed the entire street. Kong Han, who was closest to Su Zimo, suffered the strongest impact. He felt a piercing pain in his ears, and his chi flow reversed. With a grunt, his vision darkened, and he almost fainted on the spot. We're not demonic bandits. What are your intentions for slandering us like this? Su Zimo spoke slowly and said indifferently. I slandered? Kong Han was stunned for a moment and gritted his teeth. Who do you think I am to slander you? Move, kill them all. Initially, he wanted to bring the Mystic Mirror sect people to the dungeon and torture them. But now, he was filled with killing intent and could not care less. He only wanted to kill this group of people in front of him. Everyone from Mystic Mirror sect was ashen. Liang Yu also had a look of despair, as though he had lost his parents. In their eyes, the Imperial Army of Langfeng City was an existence that could not be resisted. We're really not demonic bandits. Commander Kong, please investigate. Liang Yu was still hoping for a fluke and tried his best to explain. In his opinion, if he could explain clearly, there might be a glimmer of hope. But if they dared to attack the Imperial Army, it would be a heinous crime, and they would die without a doubt. The surrounding immortal army took out their Dharma treasures again, and activated their secret techniques. Lin Luo frowned slightly and sighed inwardly. She was a little distressed. She originally wanted to hide her identity as much as possible. But now, if a fight broke out, the two of them might not be able to leave this place safely, let alone hide their identities. This was Langfeng City after all. Although there were no immortal kings, there were many perfected immortals in the city. If they alerted any one of them, she and Su Zimo would not be able to resist. Just as Lin Luo was hesitating, Su Zimo made up his mind, and appeared in front of Kong Han in an instant. How dare you? Kong Han had just recovered from just now's dragon roar when he saw a blur. The scholar in green was already in front of him. Kong Han did not expect that the scholar in green would dare to attack him, when surrounded by so many people. He also did not expect that there would be someone who dared to attack him in Langfeng City. He only had time to say 2 words, before he felt a huge impact on his chest. The armor on his body made creaking sounds. Then, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, he was sent flying by Su Zimo. He turned into a black shadow, and crashed into the crowd, rolling dozens of feet away. Puff! Kong Han spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face was pale. Although the armor had blocked most of the impact, his body still suffered serious injuries. His chi and blood were scattered, and his bones seemed to have fallen apart. He was weak all over. Kong Han fell into the crowd, and created a blank passage. At the end of the passage, a bearded man was stunned. He looked at the scene in front of him, and did not react for a moment. Oh no! When he realized that something was wrong, Su Zimo appeared in front of him in a flash of green robes. Teleportation. The bearded man reacted extremely quickly, and wanted to release a teleportation technique to leave this place. However, Su Zimo's attack was faster. He condensed his massive spirit consciousness, and released an essence spirit secret skill. A lightning whip appeared, and whipped the bearded man. Ugh! The bearded man let out a muffled groan. His cultivation realm was that of a rank 9 heavenly immortal. Although he was struck by the Essence Spirit secret skill, he managed to condense his Essence Spirit secret skill in time to resist, and did not suffer serious injuries. However, the resistance of the Essence Spirit secret skill caused his divine power to dissipate, and his teleportation to be interrupted. He remained on the spot and did not leave. As for the bearded man, he had already lost his final chance to leave. Chapter 24:19. In close combat, even a stage 9 heaven immortal would not be able to withstand the power of Qinglian's true body. Su Zimo seemed to have turned into a python as he coiled around the bearded man's body. He exerted all his strength and twisted. The bearded man's eyes widened as the sound of bones cracking could be heard from his body. Poof! Following that, his body spewed out a cloud of blood mist. He had been twisted out of shape. His internal organs had been shattered, and his qi and blood were deteriorating. A primordial spirit escaped from the top of his head with a panicked expression. To a heaven immortal, abandoning their physical body was nothing. As long as they had blood essence, they could quickly be reborn from a drop of blood and rebuild their physical body. However, Su Zimo had already expected the bearded man's reaction. While strangling his opponent, he stretched out his palm. Countless sword qi were hidden in his palm, forming a prison. The bearded man's primordial spirit had just escaped when it was trapped in Su Zimo's sword qi prison. The sword qi was chilling. As long as Su Zimo willed it, the bearded man's primordial spirit would be destroyed and he would die. The onlookers quickly scattered, their faces filled with shock. No one had expected that this green-robed scholar would dare to openly fight against the Imperial Army in Langfeng City. What was even more unexpected was that the Stage 9 Heaven Immortal Kong Han, one of the Imperial Army's generals, would be injured by Su Zimo. What puzzled everyone was that for some reason, this bystander in the crowd was suddenly suppressed by Su Zimo. Even his primordial spirit was imprisoned, and his life was hanging by a thread. What's going on? This kid is really bold. He actually dares to resist. That person seems to be a Stage 9 Heaven Immortal. How could he be beaten so badly by a Stage 5 Heaven Immortal in the blink of an eye? The person suppressed by the green-robed scholar seems a little familiar. There was a hubbub of voices all around, and it was a mess. Don't move. Su Zimo looked around while imprisoning the bearded man's primordial spirit. He said slowly, "The person in my hand is the real demon bandit, and he's the leader of the army vanquishing demon bandits." The surrounding noise instantly quieted down a lot before erupting again. It seems like he really is the great leader of the Army Destroyer Devil Bandits. Previously, I encountered the Army Destroyer Devil Bandits and narrowly escaped death. No wonder I found him familiar. Why did the Army Destroying Devil Bandits come to Langfeng City? Many cultivators discussed among themselves, and their hatred for the Mystic Mirror sect had been diluted by this sudden turn of events. "Humph," Kong Han sneered. His face was gloomy as he said coldly, "So what if he is an Army Destroyer Demon Bandit? How can you prove that you are not one of the Devil Bandits?" "Not bad." Another cultivator shouted, "You Devil Bandits are vicious and insidious, killing each other to save your own life. How could you do such a thing?" "Heh," Su Zimo chuckled with a mocking expression. Kong Han and the others had shown up and intercepted them. He had some doubts in his heart. He and Lin Luo had only been in the Jade Heaven Celestial Realm for a few days. Along the way, they did not know anyone, let alone offend the Imperial Guards in Langfeng City. If the two of them had a grudge with anyone in the Jade Heaven Celestial Realm, it would probably be the Devil Bandits along the way. Just a moment ago, Su Zimo's spiritual perception suddenly caught a strong hostility in the crowd. He secretly released his divine sense and immediately locked onto this person. He discovered that this person was the leader of the Army Destroyer Demon Bandits. This person appeared in Langfeng City, and Kong Han led the Imperial Guards to stop them. These two things were too coincidental. Su Zimo quickly thought of a possibility. Therefore, he made a prompt decision to suppress the bearded man and seize the initiative. Su Zimo said indifferently, "This is simple. As long as I use the soul-searching technique on him, the truth will be revealed." The Mystic Mirror sect had once clashed with the Army Destroyer Demon Bandits. As long as this memory was displayed, it would be enough to prove the identity of Su Zimo and the others. However, Kong Han's expression changed. If the bearded man's memory was displayed, the fact that the Immortal City's Imperial Guards reared bandits would also be exposed. This would have an extremely bad impact on Langfeng City, the 5 cities, the 12 buildings, and the Jade Firmament Palace. Kong Han's killing intent rose as he gritted his teeth. Everyone listen up. The Mystic Mirror sect has joined forces with the Army Destroyer Demon Bandits to sneak into Langfeng City with evil intentions. They even dared to openly oppose the Immortal City's Imperial Guards. This is unforgivable. Kong Han's military order was not only to kill Su Zimo and the others, but also to silence the bearded man. When Su Zimo saw Kong Han's reaction, he knew that he had guessed correctly just now. Army Destroyer Demon Bandits were indeed colluding with the Imperial Guards of Langfeng City. Burning the sky and boiling the sea. Sky Slash. Golden Spear Armored Horse. On the long street, peerless divine powers erupted one after another. Many Dharma treasures and sword chi filled the air. The battle was instantly ignited. The reason why Su Zimo was able to injure Kong Han in melee combat was because he had caught him off guard. In fact, his cultivation had just reached Stage 5 Heaven Immortal. If it was a head-on confrontation, he would not be able to withstand the joint attack of so many Stage 9 Heaven Immortals. Moreover, this was Langfeng City. If he started a massacre here, the consequences would be unimaginable. If he and Lin Luo wanted to leave, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Su Zimo directly activated ethereal wings, wind and thunder wings, heaven's feet, and many other secret techniques. At the same time, he released his great rock wings behind him. 3 pairs of huge wings spread out behind his back. With a move, he turned into a ray of golden light and left the battlefield in an instant. More and more Imperial Guards gathered around, and their attacks became more and more intense. Although Su Zimo could move unhindered on the battlefield with his extreme speed, it was impossible for him to be unscathed. In the blink of an eye, he had been hit by several divine powers and Dharma treasures. Fortunately, Qinglian's powerful self-healing ability was frantically healing his wounds. The people of the Mystic Mirror sect, including Liang Yu, did not dare to move on the long street. They were as silent as cicadas in winter, not daring to attack the Imperial Guards of Langfeng City. Kong Han only coldly glared at the people of the Mystic Mirror sect with disdain in his heart, and ignored them. In his view, these people were just ants that could be crushed at any time. The most important thing now was to deal with that troublesome green-robed scholar first. However, Kong Han neglected one person. Su Zimo attracted almost all the attacks of the Imperial Guards of Langfeng City. Even Kong Han had forgotten that there was a girl standing beside Su Zimo. Kong Han stared at Su Zimo in the air, and was about to attack again, when he suddenly felt a strong sense of danger. Not good. Kong Han's heart sank. Just as he was about to escape, he felt a chill behind his neck. Immediately after, he felt a sharp pain behind his head. "You better not move," a voice rang out beside his ear. There was not the slightest bit of emotion in it. It was cold and merciless. Lin Luo stood behind Kong Han with a long sword in her hand. The tip of the sword was pressed against the back of Kong Han's head. With a little force, it could pierce through Kong Han's head, and even his essence spirit would not have a chance to escape. Su Zimo and Lin Luo did not discuss it, but they had an abnormal tacit understanding. Su Zimo made his move to suppress the head of the army vanquishing bandits. Lin Luo made her move to suppress Kong Han. With these two people in their hands, they could break through the current situation and find a way to survive. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.